Chapter 1379. Huo Wushuang was surprised by the unique copy of the 9 lineages in his hand. However, Heavenly Sage Kuan Peng was even more shocked that Huo Wushuang could recognize the unique copy of the 9 lineages in his hand. That was the truly terrifying part. Currently, no one in the entire sacred martial realm should know about the 9 lineages. The so-called 9 lineages actually involved an extremely vast world. Even Kuan Peng himself only knew a little about the 9 lineages. He only knew a little about the unique copy of the 9 lineages in his hand. He also knew that the things recorded in the unique copy would be helpful to Li Zhongjie's teleportation formation. The so-called 9 lineages. In fact, it was equivalent to the general name of the 9 realms. However, it was replaced by lineages because after an unknown amount of time, only the 9 lineages were passed down and formed the 9 realms. For example, the human race in the sacred martial realm belonged to the human lineage. The Yuan Beast clan was known as the demon lineage. What was recorded in the unique copy of the 9 lineages should be the matters of each lineage in the 9 realms. However, there were very few people who knew about the 9 lineages. If Heavenly Sage Kuan Peng's cultivation was not strong enough, therefore, he was able to break through the current limit. In the end, he inherited the inheritance on the sacred mountain. Therefore, he knew the highest secrets of the 9 lineages and the deepest hidden existence. Only when one had a high enough level would one be able to come into contact with these things. I don't know the details of the inheritance of the 9 lineages. However, the unique copy of the 9 lineages itself is a supreme treasure that is indestructible. Huo Wushuang said. Huo Wushuang was also a demon, so he should belong to the demon lineage. Li Zhongjie did not know whether the demon lineage existed or not. However, at least the demon lineage was not weak. Therefore, it was normal for it to be placed in the 9 realms. Moreover, Huo Wushuang's knowledge should have come from his own inheritance. That's right. This is only one of the 9 unique books, the human bloodline. What is recorded in it is the past and present life of the human race, from the beginning to the present. The book itself is a true history book. At this point, even Ku Peng couldn't help but sigh. This was the only book in his hands. After reading it, he was completely shocked by the strength of the human race. Oh, there's such a thing. Who wrote such a book? Li Zhongjie couldn't help but ask. It sounded a little mysterious, but if someone could write such a book, it must be quite strong. Heavenly Sage Kuan Peng shook his head. No one can write them. These books were born from the will of the human race. Li Zhongjie's eyes widened when he heard this. This thing was amazing. Listening to what he said, it seemed that this thing was born directly between heaven and earth. As long as there was a person, this thing would write itself. However, there was no reason to not believe it. Anything could happen. This was not a strange thing. What's your purpose in taking out such a precious item? Li Zhongjie glanced at the other party from the corner of his eyes. The Heavenly Sage Kuan Peng obviously had his reasons for being so attentive. Hihi, what are you talking about? I heard that you want to study the teleportation formation. If you can comprehend the unique copy of the human lineage, you will be able to easily arrange a teleportation formation. However, if you want to comprehend the true unique copy of the human lineage, you will have to go to the sacred mountain. The Heavenly Sage Kuan Peng rolled his eyes and casually brought up the topic of the sacred mountain. You're trying to coax me into going to the sacred mountain. What's your ulterior motive? Li Zhongjie directly exposed the other party's pretense. This old thing insisted that he go to the sacred mountain. Therefore, Li Zhongjie could clearly feel that there was something strange going on. Hihi, don't be so direct. You'll know when you get there. I'm sure you won't regret it. Heavenly Sage Kuan Peng said with a smile. However, Li Zhongjie did not believe this person's words. If there were really benefits, why would other people have a chance? There must be something fishy going on. Alright, if I don't get any benefits, I'll tear down your mountain. Li Zhongjie said faintly. For Li Zhongjie, tearing down the other party's mountain was a very simple matter. He could easily destroy it without breaking a sweat. Therefore, Li Zhongjie was not worried that the other party would play any tricks. This is only a part of it. Little girl, if you want to observe it, you can come along. Heavenly Sage Kuan Peng said slowly. Huo Wuxuang seemed to be very interested in it. At the same time, he was also quite interested in Huo Wuxuang. After all, not many people knew about the existence of the 9 lineages. There must be some special way to know about it. Therefore, he was very interested in Huo Wuxuang. However, Huo Wuxuang did not care about heavenly sage Kunpeng. In Huo Wuxuang's heart, not everyone was worthy of her attention. Then let's take a look and see what tricks this old man is playing, Li Zongjie said as he stood up. Heavenly sage Kunpeng saw that his trip had been effective. Immediately he was overjoyed. Let's go, there's no time to waste. No matter how Li Zongjie looked at heavenly sage Kunpeng, he looked like a human trafficker. How could he be so attentive? After all, he was the heavenly sage Kunpeng. As they moved, heavenly sage Kunpeng confirmed his thoughts. Huo Wuxuang was not a real person. She was a weapon spirit. As for what kind of weapon it was, he did not know. Heavenly sage Kunpeng did not ask. The 3 of them disappeared into the sky. With a swoosh, the 3 of them flew towards the Saint Mountain. The Saint Mountain was located in the center of the 5 great nations. The 5 great nations surrounded the Saint Mountain. The Saint Mountain was very tall and dazzling. It was at least 10,000 meters high, towering into the clouds. It was difficult to see the end of it. Li Zongjie and the other 2 arrived at the legendary Saint Mountain. The height they usually flew was only 1,000 meters above the ground. As they approached the Saint Mountain, Li Zongjie and Qi Yinran's eyes revealed a trace of shock. It was obviously a mountain. However, it contained an extremely powerful will. The will of the mountain. Now, Li Zongjie roughly understood why the people of the Beast God Temple didn't attack all the human territories in the sacred martial realm, even though they had the strength. First of all, the Saint Mountain was not that simple. Although Li Zongjie was not sure what the Saint Mountain was. As long as the Saint Mountain did not fall, the human race would not be destroyed. We're here. As soon as they approached the Saint Mountain, a powerful force trapped Li Zongjie and Qi Yinran. Heavenly sage Kunpeng was the first to descend. What a strong will! Li Zongjie and Qi Yinran were also the first to descend. They did not expect that there would be such a thing. Now they had already reached their level. How could they be shocked by the will of a mere Saint Mountain? Even in the face of such power, they did not have any room to resist. Whoosh! The 3 of them descended at the same time. Li Zongjie and Qi Yinran looked at the mountain with extreme shock. I didn't expect such a powerful existence to exist. Li Zongjie could not help but be shocked. If ordinary people came before the Saint Mountain, they would only feel that the Saint Mountain was very grand and majestic. However, Li Zongjie and Qi Yinran could clearly feel the will of the Saint Mountain. It is said that this is the Saint Martial Realm's paradise, the true origin place. Heavenly Sage Kunpeng said with a smile. Then, as the host, he began to introduce the situation here. Li Zongjie and the others had no choice but to walk on the mountain path. The holy mountain wasn't filled with spiritual qi. Furthermore, many people had cultivated terrace fields around the holy mountain to grow crops and the like. Why are there so many people in your Saint Mountain? Li Zongjie thought that the Saint Mountain was sacred and inviolable. Therefore, there were not many people in the Saint Mountain. Those who were brought here should be very powerful people. However, when Li Zongjie arrived, he found that there seemed to be many people here. There were many of them, and they were just ordinary people. The Saint Mountain is not sacred and inviolable. On the contrary, it is very approachable. Now there are about 6,000 indigenous people in the Saint Mountain. They are just ordinary people, but they are also a part of the Saint Mountain. When Heavenly Sage Kunpeng walked on the road, not many people could recognize him. It was as if he was a completely unrelated person. However, they still greeted each other cordially if they met face to face. The outside world is in an abyss of suffering. You people here seem to be free and unfettered. It can be said that this should be the last pure land of the human race. Heavenly Sage Kunpeng said. Even if the outside world is destroyed, this place will definitely be the last chance for the human race. What chance? To be destroyed again? Li Zongjie said. Although many people's thinking was right, and they always wanted to keep a slim chance of survival at the last moment, in reality, there was not much meaning in doing so. If they always thought about the last chance of survival, Every time they did something, the last bit of leeway would be finished sooner or later. Only by giving it your all can you get what you really want. Chapter 1380. Of course, everyone's thoughts were different. Li Zhongjiu couldn't expect everyone to have the same thoughts as him. The three of them walked at a brisk pace, and didn't delay much on the way. They arrived at the mountainside of the sacred mountain. There were a few palaces at the mountainside, and they should have been built later. A few absolute saints came forward to greet the Kunping sage immortal when they sensed that he was here. When they saw Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran, they were shocked. It turned out that the Kunping sage immortal had gone out early in the morning to invite the two of them over. It had to be said that the two of them had quite a lot of face. They were indeed capable of doing so. Don't you think it's infuriating? Go and do what you need to do. The Kunping sage immortal sent these people away. In truth, these people had nothing to do here. The five of them took their leave. Since the last battle, they had witnessed the strength of Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran. So Kunping sage immortal could do whatever he wanted. In the eyes of these absolute saints, Kunping sage immortal was the strongest. Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran were in the same realm as Kunping sage immortal. Therefore, they didn't need to participate in the conversation between the three of them. Do you want to take a look around? Kunping sage immortal asked. If you continue to fool around like this, I'll kill you first. Li Zhongjiu said directly. Is this old man here to waste my time? It's been half a day, and he's still taking his time. Okay. Kunping sage immortal said hurriedly. He brought Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran to the back of the mountain. There is a very big tree here. When they arrived, Li Zhongjiu saw the words Forbidden Land written on the door. Kunping sage immortal brought the two of them to the forbidden land of the Saint Mountain, but they didn't know what he wanted to do. Qi Yinran's eyes changed when she saw the tree. This place is a forbidden area of the Sage Mountain. The connections you seek are in this tree. How much you can get will depend on your own good fortune. Of course, if you accidentally obtain the recognition of the ancestral tree, you will become the protector of the sacred martial realm, the protector of the sacred mountain. Hey! Heavenly Sage Kunping finally spoke his mind. He actually used such a sinister move right from the start. Chosen by this tree? Li Zhongjiu could not help but size up the tree in front of him. Although the tree was huge and lush, Li Zhongjiu could guess that the tree in front of him should be the main body of the sacred mountain. However, at this level, it no longer mattered who the main body was. Anything would do. But for Li Zhongjiu to be chosen by such a tree, for Li Zhongjiu, this was not something worth praising. Moreover, Li Zhongjiu was not very interested in the matter of the protector. However, Li Zhongjiu was interested in the connections of the 9 lineages. This meant that he had to comprehend it properly under the tree. Are you the protector now? Li Zhongjiu asked. If it was really this guy, then he was too weak. Cough cough, I am not qualified yet. In fact, it's not that easy. But if I can become the protector of the sacred mountain, I will be able to use the power of the entire sacred mountain. My willpower was formed under the tempering of the sacred mountain. Heavenly Sage Kunping said embarrassedly. Li Zhongjiu's and Qi Yinran's wills were comprehended by themselves in the congenital condition. Li Zhongjiu's wills were cultivated by himself. Therefore, in comparison, the gap was bigger. It was hard to believe that the gap was so big. It was very easy for Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran to defeat Heavenly Sage Kunping. They were just short of this point. I am not qualified to be the protector, but if you can, then our sacred martial realm will be saved. With the power of the sacred martial realm's sacred mountain, we may not be no match for the beast god temple. Heavenly Sage Kunping said. In fact, Heavenly Sage Kunping really wanted to destroy the beast god temple in one fell swoop. Otherwise, if these people continued to occupy this place, they would attack sooner or later, and the decisive battle would break out sooner or later. However, taking advantage of the fact that the other party had not yet recovered, either Li Zhongjiu or Qi Yinran could directly use the will of the sacred mountain. In that case, there would be no suspense in this battle. Protector. Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran both looked at the tree. In the entire continent, only the three of them had comprehended the will. Heavenly Sage Kunping could not do it, but the two of them had a chance. At the same time, it was a good opportunity to temper their willpower. Heavenly Sage Kuanping said, as long as one could feel the will of the sacred mountain under the tree, the will of the sacred mountain would also test one's strength. When the strength was condensed to the limit, it would suppress one. Therefore, it was a good place to temper one's willpower. Since they could find such a good place, of course, they had to give it a try. Regardless of whether it works or not, it's not a bad choice to find the records of the teleportation formation in the Book of Contacts and temper our willpower. Li Zongjio said, that's right. Don't worry, I will not harm you. The Kuanping heavenly sage was delighted when he saw that Li Zongjio and Li Zongfeng seemed to be tempted. He had been guarding the sacred mountain alone for so many years. It was too hard on him. The worst thing was that he wasn't the true guardian of the sacred mountain. You should at least give me some of your power. However, because heavenly sage Kuanping was not an orthodox protector, he could only use a little of his strength near the sacred mountain. Therefore, if heavenly sage Kuanping could not defeat the other party, he could choose to escape to the sacred mountain. At least that way, he would not be defeated by the other party. If the double-headed black demonic dragon had the guts to come to the sacred mountain, it would only end up dead. The two of them did not say much. At the same time, they sat down under the tree. When Li Zongjio sat down, he immediately felt like he was isolated from the world in front of him. Although heavenly sage Kuanping was still standing in front of him, he had disappeared. The distance between them was getting farther and farther. Yanran. When Li Zongjio turned around to look at Qi Yanran, he found that her figure was gradually getting farther and farther away. Even though Li Zongjio forcefully tried to pull himself together and break free from the illusory power in front of him, he was powerless. When he fell deep into it, he was quickly sinking into oblivion. Wang. Li Zongjio was also trapped and could not extricate himself. When he looked around, he had turned into a world of white, as if he was sitting in a world of ice and snow. What the hell? Li Zongjio's heart was also incomparably astonished. What kind of existences were around him? Even Li Zongjio himself was shocked. This was because Li Zongjio realized that his own will had been affected. Then let me see how capable you are. Li Zongjio snorted coldly in his heart. In his life, he did not believe in heaven's will. He only believed in himself. When you can't do it, it's only because you're not strong enough. If you're strong enough, it won't be like this. A vast expanse of white shining brightly. There was even a kind of sinking into the brilliance and being completely buried. Boom! In the snow in front of him, a big fish that was thousands of feet long suddenly jumped out. With a boom, the big fish crushed in the direction of Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio sat still in the same place. The big fish directly pressed on Li Zongjio's body and completely crushed the ground under Li Zongjio. Then Li Zongjio felt that his body seemed to be sinking into something similar to the sea. He was meditating incessantly. Boom, boom. Li Zongjio's body was sinking continuously. What followed was a huge pressure instantly surging. Immediately, Li Zongjio pulled himself together and used his own willpower to resist the terrifying pressure. The big fish above his head was rapidly pressing down on him. Li Zongjio also tried to push the big fish above his head away. However, he found that the weight of the big fish was more terrifying than he imagined. In the process of falling, it directly turned into a mountain. Boom! Immediately, Li Zongjio's body kept sinking. Seeing that the two of them had entered the zone, heavenly sage Kuanping breathed a sigh of relief. The pressure of protecting the world was too great. It's better to let these young people with passion and dreams do it. I'll just hide in a corner and enjoy myself. After experiencing it, maybe you'll like saving the world. Hee. Heavenly sage Kuanping obviously had a lot of thoughts. Then, his body swayed and disappeared from the forbidden area. It was absolutely safe in the forbidden area. Even if there were any changes, heavenly sage Kuanping would be able to quickly sense them. After all, he had been in the sacred mountain for such a long time. At this moment, on the peak of a mountain in the sacred martial realm, a black figure was sitting cross-legged on the peak of the mountain. Above the sky, there seemed to be dark clouds brewing. Within the dark clouds, terrifying lightning was jumping up and down, releasing a destructive aura from time to time. Chapter 1381. Tian, who was dressed in black, looked up at the lightning in the sky. With a whoosh, the blade of creation transformed into a pair of wings that protected Tian's back. Finally this day came. Tribulation. As a member of the monster clan, she had to go through this tribulation. Only by going through this tribulation can I inherit the will of the ancestors. Ancestral tribulation. Tian wanted to collect all the treasures in order to resist this tribulation. But now, it seemed that it was impossible to resist this tribulation. Moreover, there were dangers everywhere. It was inevitable that more dangers would appear. Finally, the lightning in the sky seemed to have been brewing for too long, and it seemed to have lost its patience. So in the free time, it directly released a thunderbolt power and fell in Tian's direction. This bolt of lightning was like thousands of war horses galloping and whistling. Such a ferocious aura came like a tidal wave, directly exploding above Tian's head. Boom! The thunderbolt hit Tian accurately. However, the wings on Tian's back formed by the blade of creation also stood in front of her to protect her. After the attack of the thunderbolt power, there were also some burn marks on the blade of destiny. Clearly, they were left behind by the attack just now. This was just the first attack, but she felt that she couldn't resist it. The corners of Tian's mouth lifted slightly, although it seemed that she was still smiling. In fact, only she knew the bitterness in her smile. In order to restore the glory of the heavenly monster clan, Tian had almost exhausted her life strength. Even the hardships he had to endure to get to where he was today was inconceivable to anyone. Tian didn't have any companions. She was alone and finally reached this level. However, the ancestral tribulation power had been recorded in the ancient books of the clan. If one couldn't collect the power of the three treasures, only death would await them. No one had ever succeeded. So Tian's heart was in despair. The mountain she was sitting on had already begun to collapse. The second thunderbolt fell. Tian felt as if thousands of silver needles had pierced through her body. They even pierced through her bones. The mountain she was sitting on also rumbled. In an instant it collapsed. He hadn't made any preparations. Was he going to be killed just like that? The mountain peak had already turned into countless rocks that were falling down rapidly. At this moment, the lightning above took advantage of the situation and chased down. Boom! The third thunderbolt. The wings formed by the blade of creation were sent flying. Tian spat out a mouthful of blood. The power of such an ancestral tribulation was completely unstoppable. The only outcome was to have his clone crushed. The fourth lightning bolt struck down. Boom! In Tian's heart, this power should have already destroyed her, even if there was not even a trace of her remains left. However, Tian felt that her body was complete. When he opened his eyes, he found a figure standing in front of him. Was he dreaming? Tian herself didn't believe it. Along the way, she had only made enemies and never friends. The only people she killed were her enemies. How could someone stand up for her? Devil-suppressing ruler? Immediately, Tian's gaze fell on the weapon in the other party's hand. At a glance, she recognized that it was the devil-suppressing ruler from the devil-suppressing tower in the Saint Martial continent. Tian had studied all the weapons in the world. At least, when she couldn't find all the weapons, she could at least find some substitutes. Hey, it's not easy to live until now. Why do you want to die so much? Fu Ding turned around. His skin was already torn, and his flesh was exposed. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Just now, he happened to pass by and saw that someone was about to be struck to death by the lightning. So he quickly rushed out. Who knew that the power of this thing was so great? Fu Ding had almost been killed by it. If the devil-suppressing ruler hadn't blocked it here, he would have been smashed to pieces by now. Although the injury on his face was quite unsightly, Fu Ding still showed a trace of a smile. You, be careful. When Tian saw Fu Ding, she was shocked because she never thought that there would be someone who would help her in a situation where she was bound to die. Fu Ding himself also used his powerful will to directly destroy the fifth bolt of lightning. However, Fu Ding's body instantly fell to the ground under the power of this lightning bolt. Boom! He was completely buried under the ground. These angry lightning bolts didn't give them enough time to chat. Tian was very anxious when she saw that Yi Shiwen was directly struck by this lightning bolt and was directly injured. However, at this moment, she couldn't be sure whether Yi Shiwen was alive or not. But if she couldn't block this lightning bolt, she would definitely die. All this time, Tian only had one thought in her mind, and that was to revitalize the heavenly monster tribe. As for why she had to do this, no one told her. In her inheritance, this must be done. Otherwise, the heavenly monster tribe would cease to exist. Therefore, Tian Yi's shoulders carried the mission of the entire tribe's revival. I can't die now. Tian Yi's eyes were burning with light again. In the next moment, a strong willpower burst out from Tian Yi's body. The blade of creation, which was sent flying far away, quickly returned to its original position and returned to Tian Yi's side. The sixth lightning bolt. The seventh lightning bolt. Boom! Boom! 2 lightning bolts fell at the same time. Tian resisted with the strength of her dragon sparrow body. Her pair of wings were completely torn apart. She couldn't help but smell a burning smell. Tian couldn't fly. She landed on the ground and roared to the sky. In the next moment, the lightning bolts continued to fall. Boom! An incomparably vast wave of energy swept out in all directions. The mountains within a radius of 10,000 miles were directly razed to the ground. All of them exploded on the spot. Along with this wave of energy, it swept out. The area within a radius of 10,000 miles fell into silence. Along with this silence, who knew how long it had been? At least 2 or 3 days. Finally, in this silent sky, a willpower was condensing again. From the countless dust clouds, a figure was rapidly rushing up to the sky. Boom! Her wings spread out, covering the clouds and the sun. It was as if he was declaring his invincible aura to the heavens. She succeeded. Even Tian herself couldn't believe that she had actually broken through the ancestors' tribulation and successfully passed it. Under the 9 lightning bolts of life and death, Tian also thought that she was going to die. But because of Fu Ding's appearance, at least Tian didn't want to lose it so quickly. At least she could confirm Fu Ding's situation first before dying. Who knew that it was this willpower that directly brought Tian back to life? At this moment, Tian also directly had a strong willpower that came from the power of her ancestors. It was constantly injected into Tian Yi's body. Boom! Tian showed her strength to the world. Then she jumped down and directly plunged into the soil and gravel, grabbing a figure out. It was Fu Ding. In 3 days, Fu Ding hadn't fully recovered, but his willpower was very strong. At least until now, he hadn't given up. When Tian rescued Fu Ding, her heart was completely shocked. What kind of willpower did this guy have to be able to persist until now? Since he hadn't dissipated, he could definitely be saved. Chapter 1382. Beast God Temple. The interior of the tower itself was an extremely mysterious space. Even the people of the Beast God Temple could not enter the inner space. Only 2 people could. One was the Temple Master of Beast God Temple, and the other was the Deputy Temple Master. The double-headed black demonic dragon's true body was more than 1,000 feet long. However, in the Beast God Temple, it looked less than a meter long. The interior of the Beast God Temple itself was a very mysterious space. Inside it was a world. The double-headed black demonic dragon's body was entrenched in the endless darkness. The double-headed black demonic dragon's vitality was greatly damaged in this battle. Although it was only a doppelganger that was released, it could be said that it had spent many years of effort to condense this doppelganger. In the end, it was mercilessly destroyed by Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran. It was simply heartbreaking. Roar! The double-headed black demonic dragon let out a low roar in the endless darkness. Mobilize the Black Court army and conquer the continent. Destroy the human race's sacred mountain. The double-headed black demonic dragon's original strength was rapidly condensing at this moment. It seemed to have received a powerful injection of energy at this moment. Then its aura rapidly expanded. The double-headed black demonic dragon's 4 eyes suddenly released extremely dazzling light in the dark void. Boom! Immediately, a terrifying aura condensed around its body. Not only that, but there were also hundreds of figures that appeared around it. These figures were completely black. No vitality could be felt from them. It was as if they were cold and merciless killing machines. The Black Court Army. This was the true army of the Beast God Temple that ruled the continent and dominated the world. Clearly, the Beast God Temple could not afford to wait any longer. Otherwise, they would perish along with it. They had to make the best use of their time. It was urgent. I will protect the temple for the time being. You take the elders with you. Yes, Temple Master. If the strength of the Black Court Army and the elders were not enough to conquer the entire human race, then the sacred martial realm was too strong. Moreover, this time, the Temple Master of the Beast God Temple directly taught the double-headed black demonic dragon the method to destroy the sacred mountain. 100,000 mountains. From the sky above the Beast God Temple, a ferocious and surging power was released. It rushed into the sky and immediately stirred up the wind and clouds in the sky. It was as if a heaven-supporting pillar had suddenly pierced in. Then it began to stir the sky. Countless bolts of black lightning were rapidly spreading towards the sky. Rumble. As the energy spread out, one could see the figures of the Black Court Army, with terrifying auras appearing and hovering in the sky. The entire 100,000 mountains began to shake violently with the appearance of this terrifying aura. Boom! The ground troops sent by the Great Yin Dynasty were still searching around the edge of the 100,000 mountains, looking for these lone fallen race warriors. However, after exchanging blows, he discovered that these fallen warriors were quite ferocious. Moreover, their combat strength had suddenly skyrocketed. In addition, the 100,000 mountains was shaking. Immediately, the leading general gave the order to retreat. The Whitebone army led by General Jiang Bai was not nearby and could not gather their forces. Therefore, they could only retreat quickly. So, most of the troops quickly retreated. However, at this moment, a bolt of lightning struck down from the sky. Then a black rain started to fall. As the black rain fell, the armor on the soldiers' bodies was also corroded. When the rain fell on their faces, it directly penetrated their skin and even their internal organs. In just 5 seconds, a fully armed soldier was completely melted. Such a terrifying melting and corrosive power was extremely shocking. What was going on? In the end, the 30,000 troops who were originally guarding the 100,000 mountains were completely annihilated by the terrifying black rain. No one could escape. All of them were corroded by the black rain. Only one person was still far away. When he saw the eruption of the heaven and earth anomaly, he immediately rushed towards the direction of Jinchang City. Only the heavenly master of the Shang Kingdom could withstand such a terrifying attack. If it was anyone else, they would not be able to withstand such a natural disaster. The news of the appearance of the black rain in the 100,000 mountains immediately spread to the surrounding cities. Everyone also went to buy a large number of umbrellas, fearing that the power of the black rain would fall on their heads. Chu Yanguan and Jiang Bai also clearly knew that the situation in the 100,000 mountains was not simple. Originally, they wanted to ask Li Zongjiu and Jiang Bai for instructions, but they found that the two were not in the palace. Their figures were nowhere to be found. In the end, they could only send Donglai Shengxian and Beikong Shengxian to the sacred mountain to look for reinforcements. Sacred martial realm. In an unknown mountain range, the surroundings were in ruins. Fu Ding suddenly opened his eyes. The demon-suppressing ruler appeared beside him in an instant and took on a defensive stance. For Fu Ding, he seemed to have had a very terrifying nightmare. In this nightmare, Fu Ding dreamed that he was about to lose his sister. This was something that Fu Ding found hard to accept, and he suddenly came to his senses. When he woke up, he realized that he was in ruins. The main thing was that the surroundings were also ruins. It was dark. At this time, Fu Ding also remembered. Previously, he seemed to have blocked the thunder tribulation for someone. Fortunately, he was lucky and was not directly struck to death. Otherwise, he would have been directly sent to the afterlife. This kind of thing is too dangerous. I have to be more careful next time. Just after Fu Ding felt that his strength had recovered, he got up and looked around, but he could not find that person. For Fu Ding, this was not a big deal. He just wanted to say goodbye. However, when Fu Ding saw that in the distant sky, There seemed to be a black cloud that was rapidly rolling in the direction of Jincheng City. He could clearly see that the power of this black cloud was quite terrifying. It contained the aura of depravity. Fu Ding had never seen such a power before. Even after killing millions of fallen clan, Fu Ding had never seen a power that was more powerful than this. Oh no, something big has happened. Fu Ding immediately leaped into the air. The demon-suppressing ruler landed under his feet and directly rushed forward with Fu Ding's body. Boom! Along the way, Fu Ding increased his speed to the limit. If he did not hurry up, he did not know how many people would die in a second. Boom! Above Jincheng City, black rain fell. However, at this moment, a golden light blocked the black rain that was falling down. This was the array that Huo Wushuang had set up in Jincheng City. After all, the teleportation array's foundation was here. It had to be protected. Jiang Bai led the White Bone Army and was already waiting on the city wall. The Tianwu ship was ready to take off. Now that the Great Wu ship was like an obedient little brother, Chu Yingguan would naturally not be polite to the Great Wu ship. If there was anything that needed to be transferred, he would directly ask the Great Wu ship to provide it. If the Great Wu ship was unwilling, he would directly ask the two sage immortals to stay in the palace for 2 days. When the time came, they would naturally be willing. Even Chu Yingguan personally faced the enemy on the city wall. It was as if their enemy was just a piece of cloud. The opponent was just a piece of black cloud. How could they resist it? It was really troublesome. This array has no one to control it. It won't last long. Jiang Bai said in a deep voice. Once the array was broken, they could only fight head-on. Everyone be alert. At Jiang Bai's command, the White Bone Army immediately knocked the shields in their hands. Different weapons were used to deal with different situations. These White Bone Army soldiers were all carefully trained by Jiang Bai. Their combat strength was strong, and they were also very suitable for fighting in different situations. The black rain continued to fall. It was as if they could see that the formation had not been broken even until now. Finally, in the black cloud, dozens of figures held sickles. Their figures were like monkeys as they jumped from the sky and landed. Whoosh! The sickles in their hands slashed on the protective array. It was as if they had pierced through a transparent glass. Chi! The sickles were embedded in the array. They directly broke a small hole in the array. The rest of the people also tried their best to attack the array with their sickles. It was as if they were digging a hole. Seeing this, Jiang Bai thought that the enemy had finally revealed themselves. Then it was easy to deal with. He directly attacked and killed them. Everyone get ready. Kill. The moment before the array was broken, Jiang Bai gave the order to attack. Immediately, the White Bone Army threw the weapons in their hands forward. Long spears flew out. However, the figures of these people directly leaped and disappeared into the sky. Their speed was incomparably fast. When they landed again, the sickles in their hands were already slashing toward Jiang Bai and the others. Clang! Jiang Bai blocked in front of him with his weapon. However, he was instantly blown away by the power of the sickles. Chu Yingguan himself also shot out a terrifying profound light. Boom! This dark light hit the opponent's body. It directly passed through the latter's body. It continued to attack with the black sickles. Boom! At this moment, the White Bone Army on the city wall also suffered heavy losses. Chapter 1383. These figures with black capes and scythes were like the incarnation of the Grim Reaper, as they easily killed the White Bone Army on the city wall. As the scythes fell, heads fell to the ground. Their methods were vicious, and they were powerful. Even if Chu Yingguan and Jiang Bai joined forces, they could not withstand the attacks. Order the Tianwu ship to fire. Jiang Bai ordered. Immediately, the Tianwu ship that was floating in the sky above the city unleashed a powerful attack. Ferocious power roared out. However, those powers were actually unable to harm the black silhouettes before them. All the attacks passed through their bodies. Protect the monarch and retreat. Jiang Bai knew that these people must be the special forces of the Beast God Hall. Hence, it was not easy to defend against them. With their own strength, it was difficult to defend against the attacks. Chu Yingguan would only be courting death if he stayed here. It was better for him to retreat now. At least he could save his life. I have no way out. Chu Yingguan refused to retreat. If he left Jinchang City and had to flee again, it would be unbearable for him. With Chu Yingguan here, he would not allow the previous tragedy to happen again. Boom! Just as the White Bone Army was about to suffer casualties, a ray of light descended from the sky and slashed towards the people in front. Boom! A figure from the Black Court Army was sent flying into the sky. Then his body exploded. It's Fu Ding! Jiang Bai was pleasantly surprised when he saw this figure. Fu Ding's strength was much stronger than theirs. With Fu Ding present, he would definitely be able to defeat these people. Of course, he could not rely on Fu Ding alone. However, Fu Ding's appearance was equivalent to turning the situation around. As the demon suppression ruler flew, it forced the Black Court Army to retreat and killed many of them in the process. However, just as Fu Ding was about to continue his pursuit, a figure suddenly fell down from the dark clouds. A gigantic elephant leg stomped down on Fu Ding. Boom! Fu Ding, together with the bricks of the city wall beneath him, collapsed in an instant. More than half of the city wall of Jinchang City collapsed from the stomp. Fu Ding. When Jiang Bai saw that Fu Ding had been trampled to the ground, he immediately jumped up. He chased after them. Under this attack, Fu Ding would definitely be seriously injured. The demon-suppressing ruler appeared with Fu Ding, but the other party was obviously an elder of the Beast God Temple. The elephant leg continued to fall. He chased after Fu Ding. In just a short while, the city walls of Jinchang City were completely trampled. He's an absolute saint. Fu Ding did not have any good ideas at this moment. When he was stepped on, he almost died on the spot. Fortunately, he had the protection of the demon-suppressing ruler. Not long ago, he was struck by lightning, which helped him refine the stronger ancient golden body arts. What Li Zongjiu imparted to him was the ancient tyrant golden body art. Beast God Temple, Elder Mammoth. It looks like you people from the Beast God Temple don't plan on returning alive. Fu Ding and the others landed in the city. However, the other party did not continue to attack, because the powerhouses belonging to the human race had finally arrived. Including Dong Lai and Bei Kong, there were 7 Saint Immortals in total. 7 absolute saints came one after another. The leader was Heavenly Saint Kuanpeng. Heavenly Saint Kuanpeng's will immediately covered the entire city. One could see the dark clouds in the sky in front of them were being dispersed by Heavenly Saint Kuanpeng's will. The double-headed black demonic dragon, 17 elders of the Beast God Temple, and tens of thousands of soldiers of the Black Court Army appeared. They were dark and majestic. Just their aura alone was enough to crush the city walls. Heavenly Saint Kuanpeng couldn't help but feel nervous when he saw so many people. This was bad. They were obviously coming out in full force. Not only these people, but some members of the Assassination Palace were also hiding somewhere, ready to attack at any time. If Li Zongjiu and Qi Yinran were here, things would be much easier. At least they could use their will to defeat the other party. Now that the other party had come with such a terrifying force, it was obvious that they were going to have a final battle. They didn't even inform him before coming to fight. If he had known that the other party was in such a hurry, he should have summoned Li Zongjiu and Qi Yinran first. Now that things had turned out like this, wouldn't it be very embarrassing to look at them? However, even though it seemed like he couldn't win, Heavenly Saint Kuanpeng had to hold the fort. As Heavenly Saint Kuanpeng and the others showed up, the other party's lineup of the Beast God Temple was also shown. Of course, most of them didn't transform. The double-headed black demonic dragon appeared in the form of a human, with a dragon head on his head. At the same time, the double-headed black demonic dragon was also looking around. It wasn't in a hurry to send everyone out. The powerful young man and woman from last time were nowhere to be found. This was what the dual-headed black demonic dragon feared the most. If they were to appear, the dual-headed black demonic dragon would have to go all out in order to defeat them. Kill! The double-headed black demonic dragon waved its hand. Without saying anything, it gave the order. Immediately, the people behind it rushed out. Boom! 10 of the surrounding elders of the Beast God Temple went down at once. Furthermore, they transformed into giant beasts. Heavenly Saint Kuanpeng and the others also found their opponents and charged at them. Boom! The aura of both parties instantly spread across the area. the number of the Black Court Army would continue to increase during the massacre. Therefore, the number of the Black Court Army would continue to increase and grow at a terrifying speed. Immediately, the Black Court Army quickly clashed with the soldiers of Jincheng City again. Although Chu Yan and the others were attacked fiercely, in the next moment, the aura of hundreds of Supreme Being experts suddenly came from the horizon. The heavenly masters from the other 4 empires also came out in full force. Before they came, Heavenly Saint Kuanping had already summoned these people. However, he was slightly slower. However, when the hundreds of heavenly masters from the Dao Nation gathered together, they immediately formed an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. Originally, there were 5 empires. However, the Great Wu Empire was only left with 2 people after the previous massacre. This time, they didn't join in the fun. However, they sent out their own Tianwu ship. At least in such a situation, they could ensure a certain degree of suppression. Boom! In an instant the sky changed color. When Chu Yan and Jiang Bai saw that the 5 empires were also participating in the battle, they couldn't help but nod inwardly. No matter what, this joint battle was indispensable. Although it seemed a little late to join forces, it wasn't too late as long as they could take action immediately. The dual-headed black demonic dragon lowered its head and looked at the battlefield below. Heavenly Saint Kuanping was being held back by the 3 elders. The other Supreme Being experts were also being held back by the corresponding experts. The reason why there were still a few people who didn't join in the battle was to guard against Qi Yinran and Li Zhongjie. Those who could destroy his doppelganger were definitely not to be underestimated. He had to be on full alert. In this way, even if Li Zhongjie and the others were to do something, they would be able to detect it first. Red Spider, go and kill that brat. The dual-headed black demonic dragon frowned when it saw Fu Ding, who was killing everyone below. Although Fu Ding's cultivation wasn't strong, he had already condensed his willpower. If he continued to grow, he would be terrifyingly powerful. Moreover, the demon-suppressing ruler in his hand was quite powerful. The dual-headed black demonic dragon's subordinates were killed in a few moves. The Black Court Army couldn't even withstand one move from Fu Ding. Moreover, the demon-suppressing ruler in his hand was quite powerful. It could directly disperse the origin energy of the Black Court Army. This was a rather serious matter. The Black Court Army was like a plague that could spread limitlessly. Most importantly, they had to wait until the end of the battle. They would get rid of the excess parts directly. Normally, they wouldn't need to consume anything. Such a sacred weapon would become a must-have weapon for the Beast God Temple when they were outside. They only needed 100 people at the beginning to form an army of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions in the future. However, if there was someone who could directly destroy the origin energy, they would have to kill him first. Otherwise, the origin energy of the Black Court Army would also be destroyed. It would be a great loss. Yes, the red spider immediately transformed into a blood-red spider and descended from the sky with 8 legs. Boom! It landed not far away from Fu Ding. A few heavenly masters of the upper nation saw that a powerful person had arrived and immediately charged towards the red spider without hesitation. If they wanted to show their strength on the battlefield, they would have to kill an even more powerful enemy. If they could defeat the most powerful one, they would naturally become the most powerful one. However, the sovereign experts who were close to them, before they could even get close to the red spider, they were shot to death by the venom released by the red spider. Clean and efficient. No matter how many armors they wore, it was useless. Chapter 1384. Fu Ding also knew that he was the opponent's target. However, there was no escape on the battlefield. The only way to face the enemy was to face them head-on. However, the opponent was so powerful that it would only take a moment for him to kill Fu Ding. After all, the difference in their strength was many times greater. Die! Elder Red Spider leaped, and the spider leg immediately stabbed toward Lu Xian's head. Fu Ding blocked the attack with the demon-suppressing ruler in his hand. However, with a clang, the demon-suppressing ruler in his hand was sent flying into the sky. Fu Ding was also blasted to the ground by the terrifying shockwave. smashing into the deep pit. He was seriously injured and couldn't move. Red Spider didn't move from his spot. His spider legs suddenly expanded by dozens of meters and directly grabbed at Fu Ding's chest. Even a light touch was enough to poison Fu Ding to death. Fu Ding, be careful. Jiang Bai and Chu Yanguang couldn't free themselves to save Lu Xian. They were even trapped by the surrounding enemies. Damn it! Fu Ding directly laid on the ground, thinking in his heart that he was probably done for this time. Whoosh! Suddenly, a cold light swept over. The battlefield was constantly changing, and no one knew where this cold light had come from. Bang! Elder Red Spider's elongated spider leg was directly cut off. Bang! Elder Red Spider's face suddenly turned cold. Who was it? Just as Elder Red Spider raised his head, another cold light fell and instantly cut Elder Hongju's body into two halves. Bang! Scarlet blood splattered everywhere. Another expert? The double-headed black demonic dragon was slightly shocked when it saw this scene from the sky. Could it be that Li Zhongjiu or Qi Yanran had made a move? Otherwise, how could such a situation occur? Red Spider's strength was at least in the top 10, but he was actually killed in an instant. Such a situation was clearly a little inconceivable. Even the dual-headed black demonic dragon was a little nervous. This situation was a challenge for the dual-headed black demonic dragon. The last time the double-headed black demonic dragon faced an enemy, he didn't have much of a chance and was directly defeated by the enemy. The doppelganger that he had painstakingly refined was actually destroyed directly. For the double-headed black demonic dragon, this was a very unjust matter. This time, it was its true body that was going to attack. Therefore, it had to find out the opponent's situation. However, when the dual-headed black demonic dragon saw the other party's figure, it was more or less relieved. At least it was not Qi Yanran or Li Zhongjiu, but someone it had never seen before. It looked quite unfamiliar. When he saw the latter, Fu Ding was also stunned. It's you! Tian Yi's figure descended, and the blade of creation spun in her hand, before finally landing in her hand. From the very beginning, Tianyi was also nearby. After all, the battle here was so intense. Maybe some good treasures would appear. Now Tianyi felt a lot better. After all, she had broken through her limit and inherited the will. It directly made Tianyi a top expert. Even if all the people in the sacred martial realm worked together, they might not be Tianyi's opponent. This world was no longer an obstacle for Tianyi. However, the battle here also attracted Tianyi's attention. After all, the little guy who saved her life was also on the battlefield. For Tianyi, whether it was the human clan or the fallen clan, it didn't matter too much. Tianyi belonged to the monster clan. Therefore, Tianyi didn't care if the two sides fought to the death. However, when she saw that Fu Ding was about to be killed by the other party, Tianyi no longer hid, so she directly attacked. She stretched out her hand. Tianyi actually attracted the demon-suppressing ruler from afar, then stopped in front of Fu Ding. Thank you. Fu Ding was now in a state of extreme shock. Just now, this girl directly killed an elder of the Beast God Temple as soon as she attacked. For Fu Ding, this was quite a shocking situation. How powerful was this person? Even if his master was here, he reckoned, even his master might not be able to do this. Tianyi didn't say anything, but looked back at the double-headed black demonic dragon in the sky. Do you have a grudge against him? Tianyi asked. Our standpoints are different. It wasn't a grudge, but his master had ordered it. In addition, both sides had different identities, so he naturally had to finish this matter. Moreover, when the other party destroyed the human clan, he would definitely be wiped out. No one could escape. If he was defeated, he would only end up as a puppet. Therefore, it could only be said that their standpoints were different. I'll help you kill him. Tianyi nodded, then jumped, and rushed straight toward the double-headed black demonic dragon. Fu Ding was a little confused. First of all, who was this girl? And then why did she help him? Was it just because he helped her when he passed by last time? Moreover, the other party's aura looked very powerful. Could he defeat the other party just by rushing up like this? Jiang Bai came in front of Fu Ding. She didn't come in time just now, but now that the latter was free, Jiang Bai could finish off the opponent. Who is that girl? Jiang Bai couldn't help but ask. Looking at her posture, she seemed to be more powerful than Evil Lord. I don't know either. The latter was also dumbfounded. However, he couldn't stop fighting with the Black Court army. Heavenly Saint Kuan-Peng was entangled with the 3 elders of the Beast God Temple. However, before the double-headed black demonic dragon attacked, Heavenly Saint Kuan-Peng had better not use all of his strength. Otherwise, if he exposed all of his strength, it would be very dangerous and passive. Suddenly, Heavenly Saint Kuan-Peng sensed Tianyi's appearance. Then, he saw Tianyi killing Elder Hongzhu with ease. Then, she rushed toward the double-headed black demonic dragon's base camp. What's going on? Where did that girl come from? Putting everything else aside, just the courage of the latter to rush toward the double-headed black demonic dragon was not something that an ordinary person could do. Moreover, seeing how easily she killed Elder Hongzhu, her strength and courage were naturally shocking. Even Heavenly Saint Kuan-Peng had to give it his all to be able to do that. However, it was impossible to make it look like it was an understatement. The double-headed black demonic dragon saw the figure rushing toward it. There was a trace of disdain in its eyes. It was just being cautious. Did these people really think that they could fight it just because they had comprehended a little bit of will? How naive. Go! The double-headed black demonic dragon roared. Then, the last 6 elders of the Beast God Temple, who were guarding it, rushed down in unison. Boom! As their bodies moved, a strong wave of energy was set off. The 6 of them joined forces to form a huge lineup, which directly crushed the people below. Boom! Tianyi instantly accelerated and rushed out. At the same time, the blade of creation in her hand also shot out. He casually drew a few strokes in the space in front of him. Immediately, the space seemed to have been cut apart. Subsequently, the person who was rapidly approaching also seemed to have been cut by countless sharp iron wires at this moment. His body was instantly sliced into dozens of pieces. Instant kill. Everyone saw the move that Tianyi had used. At this moment, the terrifying strength that Tianyi had displayed shocked everyone present. Boom! What? How is this possible? She killed 6 people in an instant? Even the Saint Immortals who were fighting fiercely were in disbelief. The 6 people on the other side were obviously stronger. They had to use all their strength just to fight one of them. However, the other side had killed 6 of them in an instant. This was simply too terrifying. How could there be such a terrifying existence? I didn't expect that there were still hidden experts. Where were they hiding before? Heavenly Saint Kuan-Peng could not help but be surprised. Now the morale of the humans was greatly boosted. With a flip of his hand, he began to force the people in front of him back with an even stronger force. Boom! The murderous aura was extremely strong. Roar! The double-headed black demonic dragon directly released its true form. The reason for that was because it had actually sensed danger in that instant. It had no choice but to unleash its true strength. When the double-headed black demonic dragon's strength erupted, it was also at this moment that the pressure of a true expert descended. The entire Jincheng city was instantly suppressed by this tyrannical force, causing it to sink even deeper into the ground. Whoosh! Tianyi also unleashed her true body of will. Dragon Sparrow body. Boom! She spread out her wings like a god of war, slaughtering the primitive world. Such a terrifying aura instantly erupted, as if it could destroy heaven and earth. The aura of the two collided. They were evenly matched. They both took a step back. However, in the next moment, the blade of creation in Tianyi's hand suddenly appeared at this moment, and it directly transformed into a pair of wings that supported her back. This made Tianyi's strength even more powerful. Boom! After another collision, the sky suddenly changed color, and the sun and moon dimmed. Everyone within a radius of 100 miles was sent flying. Boom! It was as if the place was cleared. Even Fu Ding and the others were sent flying by this terrifying storm. Roar! The double-headed black demonic dragon let out a shocking roar. Suddenly, a black Dharma treasure was thrown out from its claws. Soul-reaping bell. This Dharma treasure specialized in breaking the will. Chapter 1385. Immediately, the soul-reaping bell flew toward Tianyi at high speed. Tian Yi seemed to have felt the power of the soul-reaping bell. She immediately turned around and flew into the distance. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Tian Yi's figure had disappeared into the horizon. However, the soul-reaping bell was still chasing after her. It's the soul-reaping bell. Heavenly Saint Kuanping's expression changed when he saw the soul-reaping bell. Back then, he was injured by the soul-reaping bell. Otherwise, his strength would have been much stronger than it was now. Therefore, when he saw the soul-reaping bell, he couldn't help but feel nervous. Tian Yi's figure seemed to be unable to dodge the attack. In the end, she threw out the blade of creation and used it to rush toward the soul-reaping bell. Boom! When the blade of creation approached the soul-reaping bell, it felt as if it had lost its power. It was easily knocked away by the soul-reaping bell. In the end, the soul-reaping bell directly enveloped the huge dragon sparrow and instantly enveloped it. Boom! Tian Yi's huge figure disappeared into the horizon. She seemed to have been severely injured. After seeing this, the double-headed black demonic dragon sneered. That's all there is to it. Do you really think that I have no way to deal with you mortals? How dare you try to make the fallen clan your enemy? Even if you have some strength, you can't go against the heavens. Immediately, the double-headed black demonic dragon waved its hand, trying to take back its soul-reaping bell. However, just as the soul-reaping bell flew back, something strange happened. Suddenly, a crack appeared in the sky. Then, the dragon sparrow's huge figure rushed out of the crack and used its sharp claws to grab one of the double-headed black demonic dragon's heads. In the next moment, the dragon sparrow easily crushed the head. Boom! Blood splattered, and the head was easily crushed just like that. The soul-reaping bell didn't destroy Tian Yi's body. It was just an afterimage created by the blade of creation. Roar! The double-headed black demonic dragon's body suddenly rolled in the sky. Both sides were locked in a fierce battle in the sky. However, it was clear that the dragon sparrow's body was superior to the twin-headed black demonic dragon's body. Therefore, when the dragon sparrow's sharp claws landed on the twin-headed black demonic dragon's body, the wounds on the twin-headed black demonic dragon's body were enlarged. Such a ferocious attack directly caused the latter extreme pain. Even the dual-headed black demonic dragon did not expect this woman to be so terrifying. This was a terrifying strength that could almost tear people apart. The double-headed black demonic dragon could not believe its eyes. You are not a human, you are a demon. The double-headed black demonic dragon and the dragon sparrow immediately separated. The opponent's strength was too terrifying, so the double-headed black demonic dragon was in great pain. However, after a series of exchanges, the dual-headed black demonic dragon realized that the dragon sparrow in front of it was not as simple as it was formed by its own will. Instead, it was because of the strength of the demon clan. He was a demon himself. You're from the demon race. Why are you here to join in the fun of the human race? Tian Yi didn't answer his question. What human or demon race? If I don't like you, I'll kill you. It doesn't matter what race you are. It seems that you are not only a demon, but also a demon who has gone mad. The double-headed black demonic dragon said in a deep voice. I think your demon clan should have completely forgotten the pain of your clan's annihilation back then. Right? The human race is an evil race. How could you help them? You're letting your ancestors down. The double-headed black demonic dragon's words were confusing. No one could understand what this guy was talking about. However, Heavenly Sage Kuan-peng, who had read the Book of Connections, felt his heart skip a beat. After all, everyone had different perspectives on this matter. In the eyes of other races, the human race was powerful and arrogant. Back then, they had almost annihilated all races. However, no one was able to clearly describe what had happened back then. The records of the various clans were all different. My ancestors' matter has nothing to do with you. Tian Yi's figure was suspended high in the sky. She looked down at the people below with indifference in her eyes. The double-headed black demonic dragon was infuriated by the dragon sparrow. Was it really because the fallen race couldn't defeat the demon race? You asked for it. The double-headed black demonic dragon spat out a beam of destructive black light from its mouth. Following the appearance of this world-destroying black light, an incomparably ferocious power quickly attacked. Tian Yi felt the force coming toward her. She flapped her wings with all her might. However, the speed and power of the destructive black light were too fast. There was no chance for her to escape. Boom! The black light directly penetrated the heavenly demon dragon Sparrow's body. Tian-Yi let out a painful roar. Under the black light, Tian-Yi's figure gradually changed. She returned to her human form. It's the willpower of the Beast God Temple. Heavenly Sage Kuan-Peng also transformed into his will. His huge figure immediately sent the 3 elders of the fallen race flying. Then he quickly fell toward Tian-Yi. The double-headed black demonic dragon once again unleashed a terrifying wave of energy, smashing down on Tian-Yi. Tian-Yi couldn't move at all. Heavenly Sage Kuan-Peng immediately grabbed Tian-Yi and flew away with her. Suddenly, a terrifying wave of energy was set off on the ground. Rumble! A terrifying commotion swept across the place. Even Heavenly Sage Kuan-Peng was hit at this moment. He rolled on the horizon for tens of thousands of miles. Then he slowly came to a stop. My old bones! The Heavenly Saint Kuan-Peng howled in pain as well. He was probably severely injured as well. His body fell heavily to the ground. Heavenly Sage Kuan-Peng immediately returned to his human form. His will dissipated. The opponent used the will of the Beast God Temple. Therefore, even Heavenly Sage Kuan-Peng couldn't resist it. Tian-Yi was severely injured by the opponent. Now that she was rescued, she was in a coma. Oh no, the 2 experts have been defeated. There was a trace of panic in the eyes of the Sage Immortals. Even Heavenly Sage Kuan-Peng's real body couldn't resist the opponent's attack. It was obvious that he was doomed. Behind the double-headed black demonic dragon's huge body, a figure gradually emerged. When they saw the figure, the Beast God Temple, this huge figure belonged to the Beast God Temple. They didn't expect the opponent to bring the will of the Beast God Temple here. The Beast God Temple hadn't been completely teleported here. However, the opponent was able to borrow the will of the Beast God Temple. It was no wonder that Heavenly Sage Kuan-Peng was no match for him, and was beaten to such a state. Is there anyone who can stop this? The Sage Immortals' eyes were filled with despair. Even if they put their lives on the line, they might not be able to win. Since he was going to die no matter what, he might as well sit on the ground obediently, and let this death come a little more comfortably. Otherwise, who would be able to endure such an outcome even if he exhausted himself? However, these people had clearly given up on resisting. The fallen race obviously had the upper hand. At this moment, the ones who were nervous were the fallen race. The appearance of such a scene was rather unexpected. What's going on? The double-headed black demonic dragon looked up at the sky. The direction of its gaze was the direction of the sacred mountain. Roar! Suddenly the double-headed black demonic dragon roared. All the fallen race seemed to have been summoned, and quickly returned to the double-headed black demonic dragon's side. They turned around and ran. The fallen race had actually begun to flee. Chapter 1386. All the human warriors were dumbfounded by what they saw. Countless heavenly masters of the upper kingdom were also dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They were at a loss of what to do. The person who was fighting fiercely with them just a moment ago was fleeing into the distance in the blink of an eye. Moreover, the speed at which he fled was also very fast. He was afraid that if he was a little slower, he would be caught by the other party and be done for. Boom! Just as everyone was puzzled, suddenly, from the direction of the sacred mountain, there were countless colorful lights that were rapidly rushing toward this place. Boom! Boom! When such power swept over, the sky seemed to be torn apart. These densely packed 5-colored divine lights. In an instant, they rushed into the camp of the fallen clan. There was no sound of explosion. After these 5-colored divine lights broke through the body of the person in front of them, they rushed into the distance. Just one ray of light could easily penetrate hundreds of fallen clan powerhouses. Therefore, they were easily shot to death in the sky. When they saw these fallen clan members who were still fleeing in the sky, they fell from the sky in large batches. The human warriors were in an uproar. They never thought that there would be such a scene that would make their blood boil. It was as if they were using extremely powerful elemental energy cannons to shoot down birds. The fallen race, who were supposed to be invulnerable, and had terrifying defensive capabilities, were now like little ants as they helplessly fell from the sky. Rumble, the double-headed black demonic dragon, was also trying its best to escape. However, at this moment, a white light that seemed to cover the sky and the earth instantly bound the double-headed black demonic dragon's body. Then, with a fierce tug, the double-headed black demonic dragon's body was forcibly stopped from the sky. Roar! The double-headed black demonic dragon seemed to be extremely aggrieved and terrified. It struggled with all its might, wanting to rush out. However, there was no longer any chance for the double-headed black demonic dragon in front of it to escape. When the white figure trapped the dual-headed black demonic dragon, the dual-headed black demonic dragon was completely trapped. Once again, countless five-colored divine lights rushed over from the distance. However, when the five-colored divine lights rushed over this time, they were blocked by the will of the Beast God Temple. The silhouette of the Beast God Temple was gently rotating. Along with the spinning force, the surrounding space was constantly being crushed, and the five-colored divine light was also being distorted by the force. In the end, it was reflected back in the direction it came from. However, this power also disappeared not long after it charged out. So strong! Everyone was also witnessing this great battle that originated from the void. Both parties had yet to show themselves, but in this confrontation, they had displayed their respective strengths. The dual-headed black demonic dragon had no way of withstanding this power. His body was unable to move under the control of the desolate heaven essence. If it weren't for the fact that there was a top expert behind the double-headed black demonic dragon, controlling the will of the Beast God Temple, to fight against the five-colored divine light, it would have been blown to pieces by the five-colored divine light. Both sides directly used their own wills to start a great battle between heaven and earth. Many people didn't know the name of the evil lord. Looking at the style of the battle, those who knew the legendary evil lord didn't think it was the evil lord who was attacking. The battle between the two sides made the world feel like it was about to collapse. It was terrifying to be able to fight to such an extent. The eyes of Heavenly Saint Kuanping and the others were filled with excitement. The most excited person was Heavenly Saint Kuanping. It's a success. It's definitely a success. Kuanping Heavenly Saint was incomparably excited. If he could succeed, it would be a kind of relief for him. At least, it would mean that the sacred martial realm would be safe in the future, and there would be a guardian to protect it. It would be many times safer. Although this was an opportunity to become stronger, and Heavenly Saint Kuanping hoped that he would be the one chosen, he knew that it was impossible. Otherwise, it would have been his turn. How could he be willing to give such a precious opportunity to someone else? The rarity of such an opportunity was simply unimaginable. Becoming the guardian of the continent, receiving the inheritance of the will of the sacred mountain, there were countless benefits such as this. Although from then on, he would have a lot of responsibilities, but with the help of this power, he would be able to peek into a more powerful world. Comprehending a more powerful realm, he wouldn't be a frog at the bottom of a well forever. The power of both sides clashed between heaven and earth. Then, the Beast God Temple took the twin-headed black demonic dragon and flew into the distance. After all, the Beast God Temple hadn't fully teleported over, so the power it could exert was limited. At the same time, it needed to limit the distance it could travel. If it was too far away, it would be easy for accidents to happen. This time, the owner of the five-colored divine light didn't continue to pursue. It was just a distraction, and didn't want to destroy the Beast God Temple directly. After all, the opponent's strength wasn't that simple. It wasn't something that could be easily destroyed. Immediately, the two powerful wills retreated in the sky. Obviously, the human race had won the battle. The so-called elders of the Fallen Clan and various experts had also lost their lives under the divine light rain. No one felt that there was anything wrong with it. It was a great victory. Everyone cheered as well. The hard-won victory made everyone's spirits rise. Being able to succeed was not an easy task in itself. After going through so many cruel battles, they finally saw the dawn of victory. Today, everyone would be cheering all night. Qi Yanran summoned the desolate heaven essence back. However, she didn't leave the sacred martial realm. Instead, she frowned and looked at Li Zhongjiu, who was still meditating under the tree. The latter's situation hadn't improved yet. He was still shrouded by the sacred martial realm's will. Even Qi Yinran couldn't get close to awaken him. Qi Yinran's meditation under the sacred martial realm didn't result in her becoming a guardian. Instead, she became a qualified person like Heavenly Sage Kunpeng. Both of them had the qualifications to use the sacred martial realm's will. And obviously, Qi Yinran's qualifications were stronger than Heavenly Sage Kunpeng's. Qi Yinran happened to arrive at the scene just now. Therefore, she directly attacked from tens of thousands of miles away. She forced the other party to retreat, and at the same time let the other party know how powerful she was. He wanted to use his power to annex the human race so quickly. Such an idea was very stupid, but it also showed that the other party's situation was, in fact, very urgent. Qi Yinran obviously knew something, but it wasn't good for her to say anything about it. She just waited for Li Zhongjiu to withdraw from the sacred martial realms, before slowly discussing the matter. The people's revelry had nothing to do with Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran. Qi Yinran was still quietly waiting by Li Zhongjiu's side. Could it be that Zhongjiu is going to become a guardian? If Li Zhongjiu could succeed, Qi Yinran would naturally be happy for the latter. This was an extremely rare opportunity. If he succeeded, he would definitely step into a higher realm. However, Li Zhongjiu didn't seem to show any signs of waking up in a short period of time. Heavenly Sage Kunpeng brought the seriously injured Tian-Yi to the sacred martial realm. Qi Yinran checked on Tian-Yi and found that she had been injured by the sacred martial realm's will. She only needed to erase the remnant of the will. With the help of the sacred martial realm, Qi Yinran easily erased the remnant of the will. Tian-Yi's condition was also gradually improving. Originally, Qi Yinran was unwilling to do anything, but Tian-Yi's actions made Qi Yinran aware. Qi Yinran naturally saw it. No matter what the reason was, since Tian-Yi stood on the side of the human clan, Qi Yinran would not let Tian-Yi die like this. After all, both sides came from the same continent. Chapter 1387. However, Tian-Yi's injuries this time couldn't be considered light. Even after Qi Yinran wiped out the will of the Beast God Temple, Tian-Yi herself was still in such a situation, and had yet to wake up. Therefore, Heavenly Sage Kunpeng left Tian-Yi in the sacred mountain to recuperate. It seemed like a hasty, decisive battle had occurred. At least everyone was excited. They had never thought that such a scene would happen. However, the hidden experts of the human race were also very terrifying. It was a great honor for them to have such experts protecting them. It also gave them a greater sense of security. Their hearts were filled with joy. After the craziness, all that was left was joy. This battle had at least crippled the strength of the Beast God Temple. The remaining existences did not need these ordinary people to worry about. Even if they wanted to worry, it would be of no use. Xu Yan also started to reorganize the city in his own Jinchang city. He also started to clean up some of the corruption and disorder that was present. Previously, he did not have enough time and resources to clean up all of this. However, now that he was free, it was time to settle the score. Li Zhongjiu had been meditating in the sacred mountain for nearly 3 months. When Li Zhongjiu opened his eyes, the world in his eyes seemed to be filled with thousands of twists and turns. In his eyes, in the vast world, in the universe, he could feel the existence of a strong force. It was extremely terrifying. When Li Zhongjiu returned, the corners of his mouth could not help but curl into a smile. Originally, the sacred mountain wanted Li Zhongjiu to be its guardian. Once Li Zhongjiu became the protector of the sacred martial realm, he would be able to easily use the sacred mountains within the sacred martial realm. Hence, there would be no one who could match him in the sacred martial realm. Of course, Li Zhongjiu could not kill people at will. Instead, he had to protect the core. Powerful strength, supreme will. It was almost equivalent to an eternal life. If it were an ordinary person, they would definitely be eager to become the guardian of these items and establish a contract with them. However, Li Zhongjiu resolutely refused. He also relied on his own strength to break through the obstacles created by the sacred mountain. These things could not tempt Li Zongjio at all. Strength is not measurable. I can slowly cultivate by myself. I am not afraid of these things at all. Do I need you to give them to me? Even if I obtain the will of the sacred mountain, I may not be able to move unhindered between heaven and earth. Otherwise, why would the beast god temple attack? They are obviously not afraid of the power of the sacred mountain. However, Li Zongjio's own will had become more tenacious and powerful under the tempering of the sacred mountain. Boom! It was unknown when Li Zongjio's body was covered with leaves, but at the last moment, Li Zongjio directly shattered them. The Book of Connections. Li Zongjio also had the opportunity to read the Book of Connections, because he had obtained the recognition of the sacred mountain. He learned some things, but Li Zongjio would not believe everything that was said. He must have his own considerations in his heart. Li Zongjio was very clear about the morality of the human race. There were good and bad people. It was hard to believe how some bad people turned out to be in the end. There was no bottom line for human evil. This was also the reason why Li Zongjio did not want to become some bullshit guardian. Otherwise, no matter how good or bad people were in the future, he would have to protect them together. Therefore, the so-called temptation of power was meaningless to Li Zongjio. But this time, when he came out of seclusion, Li Zongjio realized one thing. The beast god temple was now in big trouble. When Li Zongjio appeared, Qi Yanran and Kuanping Heavenly Sage quickly gathered. How is it? It's a success. Kuanping Heavenly Sage naturally hoped that Li Zongjio could succeed. If he succeeded, he could take a break from his mission. At least, he would not have to work so hard every day to think of a way to resist the invasion of the beast god temple. Qi Yanran also looked at Li Zongjio with anticipation. She herself did not succeed, but Li Zongjio's chances should be higher than hers. However, no matter what Li Zongjio chose in the end, Qi Yanran would support him. But according to Qi Yanran's understanding of Li Zongjio, the so-called guardian position was not very attractive to Li Zongjio. I'm not interested, Li Zongjio said. Heavenly Sage Kuanpeng was stunned when he heard that. What did that mean? Not interested at all. You're not interested in becoming the strongest existence in the sacred martial realm? Are you so arrogant now? But I've already gotten what I want, Li Zongjio said. He had already gotten what he wanted. Wasn't that the Book of Contacts? In order to obtain the Book of Contacts, one must first obtain the recognition of the sacred martial realm. Didn't this mean that Li Zongjio directly rejected the power of the sacred martial realm? He rejected the so-called guardian's power. The latter was immediately dumbfounded. What? You can't be saying that you rejected the guardian position, right? Kuanping Heavenly Sage could not believe that someone would reject such a wonderful opportunity. It was simply incomprehensible. Could it be that Li Zongjio did not want to become stronger? You should work hard. After a few years, there will be no one left. Then you can. Li Zongjio patted Kuanping Heavenly Sage's shoulder and said encouragingly. However, how could Kuanping Heavenly Sage not know that it was impossible for him to become a guardian? However, judging from the previous performance, perhaps Li Zongjio's disciple, Fu Ding, would also have a greater chance. Perhaps this was also the reason why Li Zongjio disdained to become a guardian, because even his disciple would have such potential in the future. What about the Beast God Temple? I will naturally solve the problem of the Beast God Temple. Li Zongjio was also aware of the situation in the outside world at that time. After all, the sacred mountain wouldn't just stand by and watch the world be destroyed. The reason why he was able to obtain the Book of Contacts was because Li Zongjio had made such a deal with them. Although he could not become a guardian, it was not difficult to help solve the problem of the Beast God Temple. However, judging from the current situation, the Beast God Temple was not the real problem. The biggest problem was someone else. Chapter 1388. Li Zongjio also needed to understand the specific situation further. As for Li Zongjio's so-called improvement in understanding, in the eyes of others, it was simply crazy. That was to go directly to the Beast God Temple. Go to the Beast God Temple? Although the Beast God Temple had suffered a crushing defeat last time, it did not mean that the Beast God Temple in front of them was completely defenseless. At least the deputy temple master of the beast god temple had been directly rescued, and even the real temple master had not appeared until now. Moreover, the beast god temple itself was unscathed. With the fallen clan's reproductive ability, it was extremely easy for them to start anew and restore their combat strength. Moreover, the beast god temple itself was hidden in the 100,000 mountains. The danger contained within was self-evident. Kunping Heavenly Sage originally wanted to stop Li Zongjio. After all, such an action did not seem very wise. However, Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran obviously would not pay attention to this old man. Li Zongjio also went to take a look at Tian Yi's current situation. She won't die for the time being. However, this girl was actually able to survive the ancestral tribulation and obtain the will of the ancestors. She is quite lucky. Li Zongjio obviously also saw the difference in the latter's body. Moreover, being slightly injured by the will of the beast god temple could also help the latter to make her own will more solid. After all, this kind of will that was directly inherited was ultimately external. It was extremely good to be able to become more solid under such circumstances. It was also a good opportunity. In the future, the latter's strength would also be more consolidated. Let's go. The two directly rushed into the depths of the 100,000 mountains. The vast mountains were shrouded in fog. One could see the thick fog rising and rolling in the mountains. Even if there were tens of millions of fallen clan active in the 100,000 mountains, the appearance of the 100,000 mountains had not changed at all. This could be seen from this point. It was impossible for the fallen clan to conquer the entire sacred martial realm. They could only conquer the human race. Perhaps after a certain period of time, they would be conquered by another race, and the cycle would repeat. However, the sacred martial realm had always been the sacred martial realm. It had never changed. Boom! The figures of the two of them directly swept through the 100,000 mountains. There was not the slightest trace of concealment. They didn't even need to keep a low profile. They were already so ostentatious. With their speed, they soon saw the beast god temple. A towering pillar that reached the heavens was formed. It was majestic and mighty, and its aura could swallow the heavens. Even if it fell to the ground gently, it would be enough to split the 100,000 mountains in half. The true body of the beast god temple has 108,000 floors. Hey! Li Zongjio glanced around. The two of them were still hundreds of miles away from the beast god temple, but they could already see the huge black pillar that reached the heavens. Naturally, it looked more powerful than the sacred mountain of the human race. However, the beast god temple was built on the ground. What was revealed on the human race's sacred mountain was only the tip of the iceberg. The real part was buried in this boundless land. In comparison, the temperament of the human race was more reserved. It's really big. How long would it take to climb to the top of the tower? When Qi Yinran saw the beast god temple, she was also a little surprised. The current beast god temple was only 2/3 of the way through the transmission, and now it had completely stopped. Last time, most of the experts were killed by Qi Yinran. Therefore, the current beast god temple did not have too many people to maintain the transmission effect of the transmission array for the time being. If it stopped for a long time, the beast god temple might be directly cut off by the transmission array when it was shut down, or it might be sucked back again. No matter what the result was, it would be a very tragic end for the beast god temple. When the two of them were still 20 miles away from the beast god temple, the beast god temple directly released a self-defense warning. Immediately, a tyrannical wave, like a wall of air, blocked in front of Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran. I'm really giving you face. Li Zongjio looked at it. This mere beast god temple, whose people were all dead, dared to stop him? They overestimated themselves. Immediately, Li Zongjio released his own will. Immediately, the self-defense will of the beast god temple broke through. If it were Kunping Heavenly Sage and the others, they would be quite helpless against this force, and it would be difficult to break through. However, this level of force was a little easy in front of Li Zongjio. He easily broke through it. The double-headed black demonic dragon was severely injured by Qi Yinran last time, and its injuries had not yet healed. When it sensed Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran's attack, it quickly showed up. If it was a little later, the beast god temple might be torn down by the two of them. Of course, it had to show up to stop them. However, when it saw the two of them again, it did not know what to say. After all, it could not be as stubborn as before. Li Zongjio once destroyed its doppelganger, and Qi Yinran severely injured it. However, Qi Yinran had directly injured his real body. Although he had never seen Qi Yinran before, he could feel the latter's power. "What are you doing?" The double-headed black demonic dragon appeared in its human form. However, it only had one head now. This was because when it fought with Tian-Yi of the heavenly demon tribe last time, one of its heads was crushed by Tian-Yi. Therefore, at this moment, it looked a little embarrassed when it saw the two experts, Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran, attacking together. Obviously, it was a little panicked. "You are not qualified to talk to me. Let the biggest one come out," Li Zongjio said indifferently. The two of them hovered in the sky. Li Zongjio's words obviously angered the black demonic dragon. "You are looking down on me." However, Li Zongjio also made it clear that I am indeed looking down on you. You don't have to doubt yourself. The black demonic dragon was also extremely unhappy. It secretly clenched its fists, but in the end, it loosened them. Now, even with the help of the power of the beast god temple, it might not be a match for Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran. Otherwise, it would not have escaped with the double-headed black demonic dragon last time. Instead, it would have killed Qi Yinran directly. It was precisely because it could not defeat them that it fled. If it was only Qi Yinran who came today, it might still have the strength to fight. However, Li Zongjio also came together. The specific situation was not easy to predict. Therefore, this was also the reason why the black demonic dragon did not dare to be arrogant. Ahem, the temple master is now in seclusion. Although you are stronger than me, the fallen clan is not only this. Don't push us too far. What can you do if you push us too far? Since your temple master does not dare to come out, then he doesn't need to come out in the future. Chapter 1389. As soon as Li Zongjio finished speaking, Heya Molong immediately felt an earth-shattering aura erupting from Li Zongjio's body. Even Heya Molong had never felt such an aura before. He had only felt it once in the Beast God Temple. Could it be that Li Zongjio's strength was comparable to the Beast God Temple's? Break! Li Zongjio blasted his palm towards the Beast God Temple in front of him. Immediately, the Beast God Temple erupted with a powerful force. Boom! It wanted to block Li Zongjio's power. But how could Li Zongjio's move be so easily blocked? The moment the two wills clashed, the black demonic dragon was blasted away. Boom! Heya Molong himself was instantly sent flying into the distance. And under the impact of this wave, he was seriously injured. Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran were naturally unscathed. But the Beast God Temple in front of them shook a little. The black demonic dragon could clearly feel the power of the Beast God Temple trembling a little. It was obvious that Li Zongjio had hit it. Could it be that this guy really wanted to tear down the Beast God Temple? But the shaking of the Beast God Temple soon stopped. Then a white-robed figure appeared. A white-robed man who was almost 2.5 meters tall slowly appeared from the Beast God Temple. After the white-robed man appeared, there was a murderous look in his eyes. Li Zongjio? You really don't know what's good for you. Do you really think that I can't kill you? After hiding for so long, you finally showed yourself. Li Zongjio looked at the white-robed man in front of him with a smile. It was as if he did not take the white-robed man seriously and looked down on him. But Qi Yinran was a little nervous. This was because Qi Yinran also felt a sense of threat from him. The desolate heaven essence gradually appeared. Your true body is a termite, right? Li Zongjio's tone was somewhat mocking. After all, the leader of such a large race was actually a termite. You're neither a man nor a woman. I'll give you a chance now. Take your pagoda and leave the sacred martial realm. Otherwise, I'll destroy you and take your pagoda, Li Zongjio said. It was neither male nor female. He was referring to the Beast God Temple's Hall Master. The Beast God Temple Master's true form was a termite demon queen. Their race's genes were also very powerful, and generations of them had directly become the temple master of the Beast God Temple. His own ability was also very strong. Furthermore, He was extremely proficient in spiritual power. At the same time, it was this guy who had snatched the talent of Fu Ding's younger sister, Fu Ling. However, he didn't know where Fu Ling was sitting, so he could only send someone to find her. When the black demon dragon, who had been sent flying in the distance, heard Li Zhongjio's words, he was almost completely stunned by Li Zhongjio's arrogant words. How dare you mock the hall master like this? Kid, just wait for your death. The black demon dragon naturally knew how powerful their hall master was. Moreover, with their hall master's strength, it would be very easy for him to destroy Li Zhongjio. At least in their hearts, the hall master was the most powerful expert. Coupled with the beast god temple's own willpower, it would be even easier for him to crush Li Zhongjio and Fu Ling. The fallen army had been defeated. The hall master himself was very clear about it, and there was almost nothing that he didn't know. It was just that the hall master had been recovering his peak state all this time. The battle in the fallen world had also caused the hall master to be severely injured. After all, when they were in the fallen realm, they had also encountered strong resistance. Until now he had not recovered. This time, he was angered by Li Zhongjio. Naturally, he had to show up and teach Li Zhongjio a lesson. However, the White Ant Demon Queen obviously did not expect Li Zhongjio to know so much. You've already obtained the Human Relations book? The White Ant Demon Queen suddenly became alert. If that was the case, then Li Zhongjio in front of her would become very dangerous. After obtaining the Human Relations book, he had obviously become the guardian of the human race. Then, with the other party's strength and the power of the sacred mountain, the beast god temple was now doomed. That's not it, Li Zhongjio said frankly. He completely dispelled the other party's idea. Li Zhongjio only read it once, and did not really inherit it. Otherwise, Li Zhongjio would have to do everything for the stability and prosperity of the human race. Li Zhongjio hated these restrictions the most. However, Li Zhongjio already knew what he wanted to know. For example, the White Ant Demon Queen in front of him. Know yourself and know your enemy. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me without obtaining the Human Relations book? The Termite Demon Queen felt like she was being toyed with by Li Zhongjio, and she was instantly enraged. A book appeared in the White Ant Demon Queen's hand. There was a huge figure of a black tower on the book. If one looked carefully, it was obviously the beast god temple in front of them. The Book of the Fallen. Li Zhongjio's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. When Qi Yanran saw the book in the other party's hand, she immediately felt a sense of surprise. The Nine Meridians book. Each book had its own name. The human race's book was called the Human Relations book. The book in the White Ant Demon Queen's hand was the Book of the Fallen. It was the heavenly book of the fallen race. One of the Nine Meridians book. Each of the heavenly tomes represented supreme power. In the past, the wars between the various races were all for the nine lineages' heavenly books. If one could gather all these heavenly books, they would be able to unify the nine realms. There was no one who didn't want to obtain such power. However, only a heavenly book could devour a heavenly book. Li Zhongjio didn't have the Human Relations heavenly book in his hand, so there was no way he could deal with the Book of the Fallen in front of him. However, if he couldn't deal with this book, it wouldn't be too difficult to deal with the mere White Ant Demon Queen. No matter which book it was, as long as you were strong enough, you would definitely be able to defeat it. It had nothing to do with whether it was a book or not. This was also something that Li Zhongjio agreed with. There must be a power above the nine realms. Even if the power of the nine realms combined, it wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow from the power above the nine realms. Boom! Li Zhongjio's own will emerged and directly turned into a black hammer. When the hammer appeared, it smashed towards the White Ant Demon Queen. The White Ant Demon Queen also slapped the Book of the Fallen in her hand. Then, a burst of power erupted from the Book of the Fallen, and directly enveloped the two of them. Chapter 1390. Li Zhongjio was sucked into the world of the Book of the Fallen. Li Zhongjio quickly condensed his own will. A huge hammer suddenly appeared in his hand. Even in the darkness, the hammer seemed to carry a thunderous light that could split open the heavens. It suddenly swept down. Boom! Li Zongjio's hammer directly smashed into the void. Suddenly, the world formed by the Book of the Fallen trembled on the spot. The termite demon queen felt as though Li Zongjio's strike, which was filled with power, was a hammer blow to her heart. Immediately, the termite demon queen felt like she was going to spit out a mouthful of blood. After a long while, the termite demon queen finally stabilized her body. At the same time, in the darkness, she suddenly slapped the Book of the Fallen in her hand. Suddenly, several auras rose from the Book of the Fallen. Following the appearance of these auras, Li Zongjio was also directly surrounded by the fallen beasts summoned by his opponent. Not only that, but there was also an unknown number of black light spots in the surroundings. These black things were flying in groups, and they looked as if they could devour the radiance of tens of thousands of feet. Flying ants. These black figures were all flying ants. The hammer that Li Zongjio had transformed into unleashed a terrifying lightning force. Immediately, the lightning light that surged out directly devoured the ferocious flying ants in an instant. Boom! It was like a fierce burning light. Immediately, these flying ants were burned to ashes. The four fallen beasts surrounding Li Zongjio also attacked at the same time. Four streams of fallen chi fell toward Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio's own will separated. The hammer of will flew forward and collided with the opponent's fallen power, shattering the opponent's fallen power into pieces. Li Zongjio himself was holding the unparalleled sword. The unparalleled sword was burning with raging flames. He abruptly slashed forward in the direction where the termite demon queen was hiding. Boom! Termite continued to use the Book of the Fallen in his hand to summon all of its power. The power of depravity kept pouring out of the book. Is that all you've got? Li Zongjio slashed down with his sword. The lingering flame aura also appeared extremely terrifying. The fallen power of the other party was split into two halves. Li Zongjio suddenly loosened his grip on Matchless Sword. Immediately, the Matchless Sword automatically spun around Li Zongjio to kill the enemy. At the same time, Li Zongjio made a set of hand seals. Pagoda Sword Chi. A surge of energy entered the unparalleled sword in front of him. Immediately, the unparalleled sword spun and burst out. Sword Chi ferociously scattered in all directions, immediately releasing an extremely terrifying aura. It shattered the power of the depraved aura in front of him. It had the power to destroy all things. Under this sword, the termite demon queen also seemed to be falling apart, unable to maintain the integrity of her power. Book of the Fallen, heed my call, black ants to the sky. Immediately, countless black flying ants were summoned from the Book of the Fallen. It seemed that the termite demon queen relied on these flying ants to establish her position. If an ordinary person with no means encountered these flying ants that could devour everything, it was indeed quite terrifying and helpless. Even if they could resist a little at the beginning, they would only end up in a sorry state in the end. When the unparalleled sword was withdrawn, it immediately released a ring of fire to protect Li Zongjio. The two sides were in a stalemate. At this moment Qi Yanran, who was still in the outside world, must have known that Li Zongjio was fighting with the other party. Of course, she couldn't stay idle. What do you want to do? When Black Demon Dragon returned, and saw that Qi Yanran seemed to be preparing to attack the Beast God Temple, he was shocked and shouted loudly. However, Qi Yanran didn't pay attention to his words. She directly blasted a 5-colored divine light towards the Beast God Temple. Since the will in the Book of the Fallen came from the Beast God Temple in front of her, then destroying the Beast God Temple would certainly weaken the power of the Book of the Fallen. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the Beast God Temple itself also roared. Obviously, Qi Yanran's attack was not to be underestimated. Stop! Although Black Demon Dragon knew that he was no match for Qi Yanran, the Beast God Temple was the existence that the Fallen clan believed in. How could he allow the other party to act so wantonly and arrogantly? Immediately, Black Demon Dragon transformed into his true form and angrily bit at Qi Yanran. However, the desolate heaven essence in Qi Yanran's hand also whizzed out. As it spun, it directly blasted out the 5-colored divine light hidden in the desolate heaven essence. Boom! Black Demon Dragon's body was immediately penetrated by the 5-colored divine light. Immediately, the black demonic dragon fell from the sky. Bam! Black Demon Dragon crashed heavily to the ground. At the same time, the desolate heaven essence transformed into a sharp blade and easily cut Black Demon Dragon's body into pieces. Qi Yinran was not a kind and naive person. Since the two sides were in a hostile relationship, there was nothing to say. It's either you die or I live. Qi Yinran had never been merciful to her enemy. Puff! Black Demon Dragon looked up and spat out a mouthful of blood. Qi Yinran glanced at Black Demon Dragon's corpse indifferently. Black Demon Dragon's strength was indeed not weak. But if there was anything to blame, it was Qi Yinran's own strength that was too strong. Therefore, Black Demon Dragon did not have the slightest ability to fight back. If there was a hierarchy, Black Demon Dragon's strength should be at the same level as Heavenly Saint Kunpeng at his peak. Before Qi Yinran entered the sacred mountain, her strength was already above Heavenly Saint Kunpeng's. Now, after coming from the sacred mountain, Qi Yinran's strength had reached a new level. Therefore, killing Black Demon Dragon was just a matter of raising her hand. Although Heavenly Demon Tribe's Tian had comprehended the will passed down from her ancestors, but her use and understanding of the power of will was not deep enough. Therefore, her strength was at most at the same level as Heavenly Saint Kunpeng. In front of Li Zongjiu and Qi Yinran, it was obviously not enough. But this time, with a more condensed will and the Blade of Destiny, there might be some surprises. As for the Termite Demon Queen, even the current Li Zongjiu needed to use some methods to defeat her. However, with Qi Yinran assisting from the outside, it was obviously a great help to Li Zongjiu. After Qi Yinran finished off Black Demon Dragon, she directly released the Blue Bird Dao platform. Then, the aura on the Blue Bird Dao platform instantly condensed. Boom! The Blue Bird Dao platform directly transformed into a Blue Bird sword. Chapter 1391. The Azure Bird sword circled in his hand. Then, like a spiritual bird with green wings, it flapped its wings and flew out. When the latter circled around the Beast God Temple a few times, the temple itself seemed to have suffered heavy damage. From the endless windows of the Beast God Temple, countless figures were rapidly rushing out. They were all the incarnations of the fallen energy, and they madly rushed towards Qi Yinran. Immediately, the desolate heaven essence appeared again, shattering the fallen energy in front of him. The power that the desolate heaven essence could unleash was something that could only be unleashed as the user's abilities increased. The power of the Beast God Hall had been completely pinned down by Li Zongjiu, so it was extremely difficult for them to free up their hands. Li Zongjiu also clearly felt that the opponent's power was restrained. The corner of his mouth slightly raised. Yinran did a good job. At this time, she restrained the enemy and greatly reduced the pressure on Li Zongjiu. TSK, it seems that your Beast God Temple can't be protected. Li Zongjiu was in the middle of the ring of flames, and the opponent's flying ants were endless. Li Zongjiu also took the opportunity to counterattack. But because of Qi Yinran's attack, the attacks piled up on the Termite Demon Queen were clearly weaker. Reverse fire. Unparalleled sword. At this moment, it seemed that Li Zongjiu and Ho Wushuang were holding the unparalleled sword in their hands. At the same time, they swung the sword out. Immediately, the burning flames covered the sky and earth. Boom! The flames were like tens of millions of galloping horses. At this moment, a terrifying movement erupted, shattering the flying ant array in front of them. The sword energy was immediately reversed. The latter was also sent flying. The Termite Demon Queen's body was immediately wrapped in flames. Then Li Zongjiu's attack came from the darkness. The unparalleled sword displayed great power. Boom! A sword energy instantly swept over. The Termite Demon Queen also released her own energy. Although she successfully blocked the attack in front of her, she was also sent flying. His figure instantly shot out dozens of feet. The hammer formed by Li Zongjiu's will easily annihilated the four giant beasts. Damn it! Obviously, the Termite Demon Queen in front of them did not have many effective means to deal with Li Zongjiu and Qi Yinran. Suddenly, a wave of devouring power surged out of the fallen divine book. The Termite Demon Queen's expression changed to one of shock. Li Zongjiu also noticed that something was wrong. The other party's power was fading too quickly, and it seemed to be delayed by something. The world formed by the surrounding depraved power also retreated at this moment. Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran met. In fact, Li Zhongjiu had never left his position. At this moment, Qi Yinran also withdrew her cyan bird sword and stayed with Li Zhongjiu. Moreover, they were also very surprised to see the situation in the Beast God Temple. What's going on? Qi Yinran's heart was also shocked. In their eyes, the Beast God Temple in front of them was being dragged back from the transmission array little by little. Seeing such a situation, obviously, Qi Yinran also looked at Li Zhongjiu in astonishment. The termite demon queen seemed to have no time to care about Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran. Her figure quickly merged with the Beast God Temple and became one with it. In such a stalemate, the termite demon queen was also rapidly gathering power. She wanted to lift the Beast God Temple directly. A white light wrapped around the Beast God Temple. They desperately tried to lift the Beast God Temple into the sky. Its speed was extremely fast. The remaining part of the Beast God Temple in front of them was also quickly swept into the sky as the latter lifted it. Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran didn't stop it. The other party's panicked movements were obviously fleeing for her life. Otherwise, she wouldn't have damaged her vital essence at this time. After such a struggle, the termite demon queen's vital essence would definitely be greatly damaged. But now the termite demon queen had no time to think. She could only speed up. Boom! At this moment, the base of the Beast God Temple also appeared in front of Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran. Just the horizontal length of the base was easily more than 1,000 feet in length. Even Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran had to retreat a little to make way for the Beast God Temple. Now the 108,000th floor of the Beast God Temple was completely transported. It was directly transported into the sacred martial realm in the hands of the latter. Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran witnessed all of this with their own eyes. Even the termite demon queen didn't have time to feel happy. There's something else. Li Zhongjiu's eyes were locked on the teleportation array. Although he didn't know how far away it was, at least he could clearly feel the other party's power, and it was quickly chasing after them. Suddenly, the space around Li Zhongjiu immediately trembled violently. There seemed to be a terrifying power in the entire 100,000 mountains that was shaking violently. It was earth-shattering. It was as if the surrounding air had completely turned into boiling water. The extent of the trembling was enough to easily shatter anything. Boom! From the teleportation array, an incomparably huge black shadow suddenly emerged. As the black shadow appeared in front of them, some mountains had already begun to collapse. Just the aura it carried was already extremely terrifying. It's an arm. When Qi Yinran saw the black shadow clearly, she couldn't help but shout in surprise. It was indeed an arm. A handful of black hair that looked like steel needles. The structure of the arm and palm was very similar to that of a human's, but it was definitely not a human's arm. The Beast God Temple seemed to have sensed the pursuers sweeping over from behind, and immediately wanted to rush up into the sky. But this hand was even faster. It suddenly reached up and easily grabbed the base of the Beast God Temple, that was hundreds of feet wide, and then pulled it back into the depths of the teleportation array. Boom! The Beast God Temple fell so fast that it directly caused friction with the surrounding air. And during this friction, it burned with a raging fire. The fire kept burning. Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran both watched as this incomparably huge black arm forcibly pulled the Beast God Temple back. It was simply not on the same level. No wonder the fallen clan ran away when they encountered such an existence. Even though he had already run into the sacred martial realm, he was still discovered by others. Boom! In the end, the Beast God Temple was directly pulled back by this force. After the teleportation array lost its power, it automatically closed. Finally, the light disappeared, and everything returned to normal. Even Li Zhongjiu secretly clenched his fists. The reason for that was because the power that had erupted earlier was truly too terrifying. Even if Li Zhongjiu fought it head-on, he would only be slapped to death. That is, Qi Yinran was a little shocked and speechless. Now, she could be said to be the top existence in the sacred martial realm, and there were not many people who could be compared to her. But just now there was an incomparably mysterious hand that directly reached out and pulled the beast god temple back. Even the white ant demon queen had no way to stop all of this from happening. It's one of the 9 clans, the ape clan. Li Zhongjiu took a deep breath. It was an extremely terrifying clan. The reason why the fallen clan was so anxious to invade the sacred martial realm was that they were attacked by the ape clan. It was precisely because they could not resist that they were so anxious to find a new place. Originally, they wanted to take down the sacred martial realm, but they just happened to run into Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yanran. He came directly from the holy martial continent and reached the peak in an extremely short period of time. Fortunately, the teleportation array was now closed. Otherwise, the appearance of the ape clan just now was enough to destroy the entire sacred martial realm. Even if Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yanran worked together, they would not be able to do anything. They would be easily destroyed by the other party. Chapter 1392. Ape Clan? Naturally, Qi Yanran was unfamiliar with this name. She had never heard of it, and did not dare to believe it. After all, although Qi Yanran had also obtained the recognition of the sacred mountain, the human heavenly book that she could comprehend was limited. Li Zhongjiu, on the other hand, could be said to have read the entire contents of the human relations heavenly book from beginning to end. Therefore, he had some understanding of the ape clan in front of him. Among the 9 clans, the ape clan was undoubtedly the strongest. Once, there was an expert from the ape clan who came to the sacred martial realm by accident and easily earned the title of Stone Monkey Great Sage. Then he broke through the sky and left. It was said that he seemed to have returned to the place where his clan was. There was no way to know what happened after that. However, the name of the great sage had been well known in the sacred martial realm for a long time. Although a long time had passed, the story of the great sage was still recorded by later people. The relationship between the ancestors had long been unclear. Today, they witnessed the terrifying strength of the ape clan that easily captured the beast god temple. It should be the people of the fallen clan of the beast god temple. Why were they in such a hurry to take down the sacred martial realm? A few days ago, they suddenly sped up, resulting in such a situation. Both sides suffered heavy losses. The strength of the human clan, coupled with the attack of the ape clan, forced the beast god temple to take action. There's actually such a strong clan. Are they also thinking of invading the sacred martial realm? Qi Yanran asked worriedly. If these people also wanted to attack the sacred martial realm, it would obviously be a disaster for the sacred martial realm. They probably could not withstand 2 slaps from the other party. I don't know. Li Zhongjiu also shook his head. This kind of thing was difficult to know. However, if a connection could be established between them, there would definitely be a situation of mutual conquest. How could a strong clan live together with a weak clan? It would definitely be one side enslaving the other. Therefore, it was only a matter of time before this day came. The teleportation array was naturally shut down, and the surrounding array foundations had also lost their effect. However, Li Zhongjiu did not intend to use the teleportation array here. Instead, he planned to create a teleportation array himself. After checking the surroundings, Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yanran disappeared hand in hand. On the Tianwu ship, Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yanran were also strolling leisurely. It seemed that there were still some fallen race warriors left in the 100,000 mountains. However, it was already good enough that these people could survive. They could not pose much of a threat to the human race. A certain amount of danger was still necessary. Life is born of worry and calamity, and death comes from ease and happiness. The 2 of them played in the sky above the sacred martial realm for half a month. During this half a month, Li Zhongjiu had also been gradually writing down the records of the teleportation array in the human encyclopedia. He also summoned Wuxia to study it together. The result of 2 top-notch array masters working together to deduce was naturally marvelous. Half a month ago, when the beast god temple was taken away, Heavenly Saint Kunping had already sensed it. Even the few absolute saint experts in the sacred martial realm had sensed it. The haze of war that had shrouded the world for so many years had finally been completely taken away today. Naturally, everyone felt very happy in their hearts. The sacred martial realm had finally regained its former peace. Although the start of the final war was a little hasty, it was fortunate that there were not many losses. If there was one thing that was most tragic in this disaster, it would belong to the Great Yin dynasty. So many experts had fallen like raindrops. Now, under the support of evil Lord Li Zongjiu, Chu Yingguan had grown up. Whether he could lead the new Great Yin dynasty to the peak again depended on Chu Yingguan's strength. Even if Li Zongjiu wanted to protect Chu Yingguan, if his own strength was not enough, there would always be unexpected situations. Even Li Zongjiu could not protect Chu Yingguan for too long. There would always be times when Chu Yingguan was not around. If he really wanted to develop, he still had to rely on his own strength. Fortunately, although the former Great Yin dynasty had been destroyed, there were still a large number of people who had returned to the new Great Yin dynasty, founded by Chu Yingguan. They belonged to the new Great Yin dynasty and invested in the construction. Chu Yingguan was born in the orthodox way. Therefore, there was nothing wrong with becoming the new monarch of the Great Yin dynasty. Even for the people of the Great Yin dynasty, they felt a sense of belonging. Naturally, they were willing to invest in the construction of the new Great Yin dynasty. Although the structure of the world had shrunk a little, the general structure still existed. The other monarchs of the big countries were still enjoying their power and status. But now they had to think carefully. Whether they knew Li Zongjiu or not, they had to pay a visit to him. Otherwise, who knew when this terrifying existence called Evil Lord would descend on their palace and crush them easily? They would not even know what had happened. Therefore, it was necessary to greet Chu Yingguan. However, these people waited bitterly for half a month and did not see Li Zongjiu. It was as if the two had disappeared. After another half a month, Li Zongjiu and Qi Yinran returned to the Great Yin dynasty again. They learned that the monarchs of the four great kingdoms were waiting to see them. And they had waited bitterly for a month. Li Zongjiu waved his hand and asked them to leave after delivering the gifts. He was not in the mood to meet these people. Just studying the teleportation formation was enough to give him a headache. After the torment of the teleportation formation, Li Zongjiu was almost becoming a real level 10 array master. Li Zongjiu was still in the courtyard of the imperial palace, tinkering with the teleportation formation. During this period, he only met Heavenly Sage Kuan-pung once. After all, he had to make some confirmation. After getting confirmation from Li Zongjiu, Heavenly Sage Kuan-pung was completely relieved and left with satisfaction. 100,000 mountains. The former teleportation formation address. About 7 to 8 miles away from the teleportation formation site. A few strands of black hair hanging on a tree. After absorbing the sunlight and dew, gradually, changes began to take place. There were hundreds of similar hairs, but in the end, only about 5 of them changed. GG. One of the hairs was in a particularly good position, so it was the first to change. It turned into a monkey the size of a human thumb. Chapter 1393. A few thumb-sized monkeys that were just born. After cleaning their fur, a fox that was climbing a tree suddenly appeared. When the fox approached the monkeys, it immediately bared its fangs and bit at the little monkeys. Obviously, in the fox's eyes, although the monkeys were small, they were still meat and should be quite delicious. It had been a long time since it had eaten such a novel thing. However, when the fox pounced on the first thumb-sized monkey, it found that the tiny thumb-sized monkey had infinite strength. It directly smashed the fox's chin with a punch. It grabbed the monkey's skull and swung it around on the ground. It directly smashed the ferocious fox to death. Then, the monkeys quickly divided up the fox and ate it. After eating the fox, the size of the thumb-sized monkeys was rapidly growing. Now they had grown to the size of a palm. The leading monkey was covered in pitch-black hair, but there was a trace of white hair on the top of its head. He also had a natural sense of power. Just now, when he was facing this fox, he was also the first to make the first move. It pulled out the fox's teeth. It could not be digested, so it was directly used as a weapon. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The monkey made a series of sounds to the 4 monkeys behind it. Immediately, the monkeys nodded. Subsequently, the 5 figures also collected some of the unhatched black hairs. After which, they quickly rushed into the depths of the forest with these black hairs. Swoosh swoosh. Immediately, the figures of the ape tribe rapidly disappeared. It was obviously not easy to find the apes in the 100,000 mountains. At this moment, Li Zhongjiu and the others who were still in the Great Yin dynasty were also trying their best to deduce the teleportation array. Now they were waiting for the opportunity to appear. Most of the foundations of the teleportation array had been laid. Now they just needed time to perfect the teleportation array. Li Zhongjiu was not clear about what happened in the 100,000 mountains. Li Zhongjiu was not a god, so it was naturally impossible for him to know everything in the sacred martial realm. 8 dragon-patterned stone pillars were erected out of thin air in an empty space. Qi Yanran held the ladder on the ground. Li Zhongjiu was holding a small carving knife and carefully carving on the dragon-patterned stone pillar. Li Zhongjiu could easily do it with his mental strength, but he wanted to show off his superb knife skills in front of Qi Yanran. By now, Wuxia had already finished carving the other 7 pillars, and only Li Zhongjiu's pillar remained unfinished. Of course, Li Zhongjiu's speed was not slow either. Moreover, if it was carved by hand, it would appear more stable. Success! When Li Zhongjiu's last saber strike fell, the dragon-patterned stone pillar was finally completed. The ground was covered with top-grade primordial stones. With Chu Yanguan's current strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to obtain these top-grade primeval stones. The sacred martial realm was rich in resources, and the geographical differentiation was quite reasonable. Now the various countries were constantly restoring the once glorious cities. Obviously, it would be easier to build on the original foundation. Moreover, as long as a city was built, there would be enough resources around the city to establish a hub. Whether it was to develop some resource areas, or to develop the population, it would be very easy. There was an inseparable connection. Chu and Yin Guan had also expanded the territory of Great Yin once again. The territory had become even wider, and the resources they had obtained had also become even richer. Is it done? Qi Yanran's eyes were full of expectation. She had not gone back for a long time, so naturally, she was very homesick. If it was successful, it would be a good thing. Let's try it and then we'll know. Li Zhongjiu stood in the teleportation formation. It could be said that the teleportation formation had been prepared for almost half a year. Furthermore, such a top-notch expert had prepared for half a year before it was completed. If there was no formation master Wuxia, it was inevitable that it would take 10 times longer to reach this level. It would be difficult for Li Zhongjiu alone to solve the complicated program in the teleportation formation. Qi Yanran also came to Li Zhongjiu's side. She held Li Zhongjiu's hand tightly. Clearly, he wanted to test the effects of the teleportation array with Li Zhongjiu. I don't know if this teleportation formation will work. Just come up directly. If it is teleported to a deserted island, you will be in trouble, Li Zhongjiu said with a smile. However, Qi Yanran did not care. What are you afraid of? What haven't you been to? Qi Yanran did not care at all. Following Li Zhongjiu, she had seen all kinds of dangers. There was really nothing to be afraid of. Li Zhongjiu could only shrug helplessly. Then he hugged Qi Yanran in his arms. Then, he hit a stream of Yuanli on the stone pillar. Yuanli poured into the stone pillar. Immediately, a surge of energy connected the 8 stone pillars together. In this way, the power was rapidly condensed and concentrated on the formation. At this moment, the formation under their feet lit up. Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yanran could clearly feel the drastic changes in the surrounding space. Whoosh! The 2 figures suddenly disappeared from where they stood. The sky in the sacred martial realm also disappeared with a terrifying will. Whoosh! In the direction of the sacred mountain, Heavenly Saint Kuanpeng also looked up at the sky. Heavenly Saint Kuanpeng was surprised and did not make any more guesses. After all, the people in this direction were Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yanran. If the 2 of them wanted to cause trouble, even Heavenly Saint Kuanpeng could not do anything about it. However, he had been baptized by the sacred mountain. Naturally, he believed in the latter's character. It was natural for him to do something a little overboard. However, it was impossible for him to do something that could overturn the continent. He was quite confident about this. Therefore, no matter what kind of trouble the two of them caused, he did not care. Even if the dynasties were to fight each other. For Heavenly Saint Kunpeng, it did not matter as long as the human race was not destroyed. The sacred mountain did not participate in these worldly battles. Instead, they completely stayed out of it. When something big happened in the sacred martial realm, they would take action immediately to ensure the integrity of the sacred martial realm. Other than that, there was basically nothing that required the sacred mountain to take action. Therefore, if it was in some peaceful times, the days in the sacred mountain were actually quite comfortable. They would occasionally recruit some disciples. Then they would collect the tributes easily. At this moment, Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran once again carried out an extremely magical spatial transmission. Puff! The two of them seemed to have passed through a layer of thin film. They fell directly from the sky. The two of them adjusted their bodies in time and landed steadily on the ground. Boom! After the two of them landed, a wave of air immediately spread out in all directions. At the same time, they also took a breath of the surrounding air, and their eyes suddenly emitted light. Chapter 1394. This was the Shenggu continent's sky suspension mountain. After leaving for almost 2 years, they were finally back. For the two of them, this was simply a dreamlike journey. After being away for 2 full years, he had finally returned to this place. As they breathed in the fresh air around them, the two of them felt a sense of relief. I didn't expect to be back. Now that the two of them had returned to the Shenggu continent, they were really excited. 2 years was not a long time, but it was not short either. However, compared to the Shenggu continent, there were not many changes in these 2 years. Relatively speaking, the changes could be said to be negligible. However, the great battle in the Sky Suspension Mountain made the people and meta beasts in the Eldritch Land thoroughly feel the terror of the Sky Suspension Mountain. It was simply earth-shattering, truly earth-shattering. Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran's strength had long surpassed the entire Shenggu continent. However, in order to keep a low profile as much as possible, Li Zhongjiu and Qi Yinran's strength had long surpassed the entire Shenggu continent. The two of them also retracted their auras appropriately. Otherwise, just releasing their auras alone would be enough to intimidate all the meta beasts in the Eldritch Land. We are finally back. How are we going to go through this teleportation array? A new problem arose. If they wanted to go over, would they have to build a new teleportation array? There is already an array base here, so I only need to record some information about the sacred martial realm here. And it can be used for two-way teleportation at any time and anywhere. Li Zhongjiu said. Spatial teleportation was already a common thing for them. However, Li Zhongjiu was not in a hurry to build a teleportation array. He would wait until the time came. After all, there was nothing in the sacred martial realm that he was reluctant to leave. Although there were more and more people in the 5 great empires who directly believed in the evil lord, Yi Lingchen did not care. However, Li Zhongjiu didn't care if these people had faith in him or not. They couldn't just bow to the sky and look at Li Zhongjiu's name and ask Li Zhongjiu to fulfill their wishes. It would be good enough if he did not send them flying with a kick. Primordious bell. Li Zhongjiu beckoned with his hand. Immediately, the primordial bell flipped over and flew towards Li Zhongjiu from afar. As the sky-suspending mountain was a forbidden ground, there weren't any meta beasts or desolate beasts that dared to approach it. The primordious bell had been waiting here for 2 years. Dust and the like naturally didn't dare to come close, so this primordial bell was still incomparably new. Li Zhongjiu controlled the primordial bell. A palm strike landed on the primordial bell. Immediately, 3 figures flew out from the primordial bell. He landed steadily on the ground. Even the 3 of them were immersed in an incomparably shocked expression. How could this be? The 3 elders of Vermilion Bird Divine Palace clearly hadn't expected that they would be able to escape from the primordial chaos bell so quickly. Could it be that they had gained a deeper understanding and control of the primordial chaos bell after studying it over the past few days? That was why he was able to escape from the primordial bell. Soon, the three of them saw two figures standing not far away. Moreover, the primordial bell was also put away by one of them. It was incomparably easy, as if it originally belonged to him. Li Zongjio. The three elders of Vermilion Bird Divine Palace were clearly shocked beyond words. Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran had appeared in front of them once again. It's you. Are you alright? Where's the heavenly demon tribe? The three elders were clearly still traumatized from the previous battle. If Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran hadn't saved their lives with the primordial bell, they might have been killed by the heavenly demon dragon sparrow back then. After all, there was still a huge gap in strength between them. You don't have to worry. The heavenly demon dragon sparrow won't have any designs on Vermilion Bird Divine Palace. Li Zongjio said. After all, Qi Yinran was also indebted to Vermilion Bird Divine Palace. However, it didn't mean that Qi Yinran had to be loyal to Vermilion Bird Divine Palace for the rest of her life, just because she had benefited from Vermilion Bird Divine Palace. Such a thing naturally wouldn't happen to Li Zongjio, and he wouldn't let Qi Yinran do it either. In Li Zongjio's opinion, it was normal for such a thing to happen. Moreover, it was Qi Yinran's capability. Both sides were just taking what they needed. It was hard to say who would owe who in the future. The three elders of Vermilion Bird Divine Palace had a strange feeling when they looked at Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran. In front of the two of them, the three of them were like tiny ants looking up at a towering mountain. As an ant among them, he had no idea how tall and terrifying the towering mountain in front of him was. They actually had such a feeling. The three of them didn't know what had happened at that time. This was because they had been locked in the chaotic Yuan Bell at the beginning. They didn't know that the two of them had been in the sacred martial realm for 2 years. In fact, Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran had transmigrated. Other than Tian, no one else knew about it. After all, the battle that had taken place at that time was earth-shattering. Moreover, it had taken place in the sky-suspending mountain, where there was no one. As the top of the 10 forbidden lands of untainted land, no one dared to intrude. The terrifying wild beasts at the edge of the sky-suspending mountain were enough to deter anyone who wanted to spy on it. Therefore, the temporary disappearance of Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran didn't cause much of a stir in the outside world. After all, 2 years was too short for the Holy Martial Continent. There's nothing else. You can go and do your own things now. Li Zongjio said. Although the two of them had experienced many things, it didn't mean that they needed to be told everything. Li Zongjio didn't have a good relationship with the Sparrow Divine Palace. Li Zongjio didn't even look for the Sparrow Divine Palace to settle the score by imprisoning Qi Yinran for a period of time. He had already given the Sparrow Divine Palace enough face and opportunity. If they still didn't know what was good for them, then there was no need for them to exist. The two of them disappeared immediately. The three elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace looked at each other. They had been locked up for 2 years and didn't know what had happened. However, for them, being able to come out alive was already a very fortunate thing. Why do I feel like I'm looking up at a tall mountain when I look at Li Zongjio? Although I don't know what happened, I reckon that Qi Yinran has completely inherited the Green Bird Dao platform. She has cultivated the orthodox divine technique of the Sparrow Divine Palace. Let's go and catch up with them. The great elder said excitedly. Li Zongjio and Qi Yinran didn't speed up. They just swayed slowly. They even summoned the Sky Marshal boat. The three elders immediately landed on the deck of the Sky Marshal boat. The elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace greet the Palace Master. Chapter 1395. Palace Master? Li Zongjio wanted to drive these people away, but they were very straightforward and directly knelt down in front of Qi Yinran. They directly called her Palace Master. Was this forcing a duck to a perch? Since the other party directly knelt down, Li Zongjio didn't need to go too far. Moreover, these people were also here to call Qi Yinran, so they had to listen to Qi Yinran's opinion. Qi Yinran also looked at Li Zongjio with an inquiring look. However, Li Zongjio also said that this kind of thing should be decided by himself. Palace Master, The Heavenly Sparrow clan has not had a new clan master for nearly 1,000 years. Please accept our request. The three elders appeared to be very sincere. Qi Yanran finally said, "Get up first. I am not suitable for the position of palace master. If you can find a more suitable candidate, you can leave at any time." Qi Yanran decided to accept these three elders. Otherwise, these three elders had guarded this inheritance for 1,000 years. Now that the inheritance was taken away by Qi Yanran, of course, they would be at a loss. If she didn't allow these three to follow her, it would seem a little too cruel. Therefore, Qi Yanran also wanted to appease the three elders for the time being. Moreover, Qi Yanran's current strength was enough to control these three elders. So if they followed her, they would naturally be of great use if they were obedient. Qi Yanran naturally also needed to plan for the future of the Qi clan. Now, Qi Yanran also had enough strength to help the Qi family become an eternal family. However, Li Zongjio had already said that the clan would not be destroyed. There was no clan that could be truly indestructible. There would always be a generation that would start, and then gradually weaken. They only needed to ensure that the present was enough. Qi Yanran thought about this for a while and figured it out. The three elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace directly became Qi Yanran's subordinates. When they heard that Qi Yanran was willing to take them in, they were immediately surprised. The previous location has been destroyed. With your strength, it shouldn't be a problem to find a new place and establish a sect, right? Qi Yanran said. Of course, there's no problem. As long as it's outside the 10 forbidden lands of untainted land, the three of us are confident that we can take down any sect. The second elder's eyes were blazing. He could already see the glorious days of Sparrow God Palace in the future. His heart was naturally filled with excitement and ambition. They were waiting for Qi Yanran to give the order at any time. Then, they would charge at these people and display the strength of Sparrow Divine Palace. There's no need to attack other sections. I think the original Buluo mountain range is not bad. How about we rebuild there? Qi Yanran looked at Li Zongjio. Why are you looking at me? Of course, I don't have any objections. Li Zongjio looked at Qi Yanran's eyes. This is your sect. You can do whatever you want. If anyone bullies you, tell me and I'll destroy them. Li Zongjio looked at Qi Yanran and said. Qi Yanran laughed. The tacit understanding between the two was self-evident. In Buluo Mountain, there are many ferocious meta-beasts near Buluo Mountain. Some of them have reached the honorable realm. After the three elders heard this, they waved their hands and looked surprised. At this moment, the Tianwu ship seemed to have accidentally entered the territory of a meta-beast. There was a sudden burst of terrifying vibrations below. Boom! The surrounding mountains suddenly shook and thunder clouds rolled in the sky. Before the other party's figure appeared, it had already brewed the power of wind and thunder. Oh no, we've entered the Thunder Pool Mountain. This is the territory of the Wind Thunder Condor. The faces of the three elders immediately revealed a look of horror. The Wind Thunder Condor's strength in untainted land was second only to Sparrow Divine Palace. However, the Thunder Pool Mountain had the advantage of time and place. The three elders had not recovered to their peak state. Now that they were in someone else's territory, and the other party had a large number of people, they had the advantage of time and place. Soon, 5 enormous figures emerged from the thunderclouds and rushed towards the Sky Marshal ship. The Tianwu ship was not small. Now it was even more arrogant and despotic. By barging in directly, it was clear that he did not put these Wind Thunder Divine Eagles in his eyes. Of course, the Wind Thunder Condors wanted to teach these people who did not know etiquette a lesson. As for the way to teach them a lesson, it was to kill them directly. Escort the palace master to retreat. The white bird scepter in the great elder's hand shook slightly. Now that they had rashly barged in and encountered these terrifying Wind Thunder Condors, there was naturally nothing to talk about. A fierce battle was inevitable. Similarly, if the other party rashly barged into the territory of Sparrow Divine Palace, the three elders would definitely not be polite. How dare you be presumptuous in front of me? Come down. Qi Yanran was not nervous at all. If it was in the past, these 5 Wind Thunder Condors, who were close to the honorable realm, would make her nervous. But now, These wind thunder condors in front of her were not worth the latter's worry. Li Zhongjie also roared at the top of his voice. Immediately, the thunder clouds in the sky dispersed. Boom! The 5 wind thunder divine eagles had originally wanted to charge down and unleash their unstoppable thunderbolts to destroy the sky martial arc beneath them and kill everyone on the sky martial Arkansas. However, at this moment, Li Zhongjie's roar was like 5 steel spears that directly pierced the hearts of the 5 wind thunder condors. In the blink of an eye, the 5 wind thunder condors' diving momentum had disappeared. Their bodies suddenly stiffened, and they could no longer move. Subsequently, the 5 figures also gradually shrank in size as they fell. Bang! 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 They fell heavily on the deck of the Sky Marshal ship, and were seriously injured. The Thunder Pool Mountain itself was one of the 10 great forbidden lands. It was because of the existence of these ferocious wind thunder condors. However, these powerful wind thunder condors were directly destroyed by Li Zhongjie's roar. The 5 wind thunder condors fell on the deck, as if they were completely crippled. The 3 elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace did not even understand what had happened. Everything happened too fast, like a tornado. There was no time to react at all. Originally, they wanted to have a big battle. But who would have thought that it would be so easy to deal with them? Could it be that these wind thunder condors' wings accidentally slipped when they fell? The 3 of them looked at each other. This kind of thinking was obviously very stupid, and it was nonsense to comfort themselves. The real reason was that Li Zhongjie's strength was so strong that he only needed to roar to cripple them. The 5 wind thunder condors flapped on the deck, trying to get up. Submit to the Sparrow Divine Palace or die. Qi Yanran took a step forward. It was not a bad idea to establish a sect. At least this sect had ready-made powerful strength, and would become an important force to protect the Qi family in the future. Chapter 1396. The 5 wind thunder divine eagles were not stupid. The other party had merely snorted. He had defeated the 5 of them directly. At that moment, it was as though a god had snapped his fingers beside their ears. Therefore, the 5 wind thunder godly eagles did not have any suspense. They immediately surrendered and chose to submit. The 3 of you can choose any 3 to form a contract with, and become your mounts. The 3 elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace stopped. Their eyes widened with ecstasy. These were wind thunder divine eagles. In ancient times, it was only because there were no top-notch experts in the clan that they did not become one of the 3 major demon clans. However, as birds, they knew how difficult it was to deal with the wind thunder divine eagles. Could it be that it was so easy to subdue a race that had been a formidable enemy for thousands of years? He simply couldn't believe his eyes. However, since the wind thunder divine eagles had chosen to submit, they had no other choice but to become the mounts of the people in front of them. Then, the 3 elders chose a wind thunder divine eagle and formed a contract with it. As such, the future of the wind thunder divine eagles would depend on their performance. If they did not perform well, there would be a lot of suffering waiting for them. The remaining 2 should belong to Qi Yanran. However, Qi Yanran did not bother to form a contract with them. Such birds were not qualified to be Qi Yanran's mounts. Hence, they were in charge of clearing the way in front to prevent some ignorant meta-beasts from rushing out to seek death. If that happened along the way, Li Zhongjie's Tianwu boat might not be able to accommodate them. Let's make a trip to the Du family in Sky Suspension Mountain first. If it was not for the Du family's help, things might not have progressed so smoothly. Li Zhongjie said. Now that Evil Lord had come to the mainland again, he naturally wanted to settle all the unsettled matters. When he left previously, the Du family seemed to be in an argument with another clan. However, they did not seem to have the time to take action. Li Zhongjie did not have the time to help them, as he was in a hurry to find Qi Yanran. However, at the Du family in Sky Suspension Mountain, they were suffering the greatest calamity since their birth. Among the upper echelons of the Du clan, only Du Tianhe was unharmed. The rest of the people were also injured by a mysterious expert hired by the Tan family. Even the patriarch's injuries were extremely serious, and his life was in danger. Right now, The Du clan had already shrunk their territory and returned to the sky-suspending mountain. He even activated the Great Mountain Protection Array. Clearly, he was frightened by the other party's strength. About half a year ago, the Du clan's clan head gave the order to start a war with the Tan clan. That was because the Tan clan had openly snatched the Du clan's resources time and time again. They had even injured or seriously injured the Du clan's people. How could the people of the Du clan tolerate such provocative behavior? Therefore, it didn't take long for the two sides to declare war on each other. However, the situation of the battle was extremely tragic. At the very beginning, the Du clan was filled with experts. There were even a total of 6 supremes. For someone like him, this level of strength was already extremely terrifying. There were more than 20 peak origin emperor's experts. However, this powerful lineup had been severely injured by a mysterious expert from the Tan family during a concentrated battle. At that time, Du Su knew that he had been tricked. No one knew the origin of this mysterious expert. Therefore, they called him the green-clothed visitor. The green-clothed visitor's body was like black iron. He was impenetrable and could even ignore all attacks. He was extremely good at close combat and had endless strength. His punch could destroy the heavens and earth. It was extremely terrifying. Right now, in front of the Great Mountain Protection Array of the Du clan, the green-clothed visitor stood among the crowd, looking extremely dazzling. Behind Du Tianhe was a group of young disciples of the Du clan. There weren't many experts left. Du Ling was also beside Du Tianhe. She was gritting her teeth at the person outside the array. Her small fists were also clenched tightly. She couldn't wait to rush out and beat the person to death. That damn green-clothed visitor. If I have the chance, I will skin him alive. Du Ling said fiercely. Everyone in the Du clan had the same thought. It was because of this person's participation that the Du clan ended up in this situation. This time, we have implicated Miss Ice Sparrow. Ice Sparrow shook her head. Ever since Li Zongjio, the third elder, the first elder, and the second elder went missing, Ice Sparrow had been trying her best to find them in the Eldritch Wasteland. However, she didn't have the strength to do so. However, in the past 2 years, Ice Sparrow was lucky enough to break through to the Supreme Being realm. Now that the Du clan was in trouble, Ice Sparrow naturally had to lend a helping hand at this time, because the Du clan had helped the Sparrow Divine Palace a lot. It's only right for friends to help each other. Ice Sparrow shook her head. At this very moment, as she looked at the battle that was almost certain to end in death, a figure appeared in her mind. In front of that person, it seemed that there was no fear at all. All enemies could be killed. No one could stop him. Li Zongjio, are you all still alive? Ice Sparrow didn't know why she was worried about Li Zongjio and not the elders. Perhaps it was because of Li Zongjio's appearance that Ice Sparrow's life had changed a lot. Only then did Ice Sparrow feel that she was truly alive. Of course, if she thought of it this way, it was indeed a little disgraceful. People of the Du clan, you are all good. If you join the Tan clan now, I can guarantee that I won't kill you. In the Tan clan, one of them had dyed red hair, and his hair was very long. When it swayed in the wind, he looked like a lion. The Tan clan head, Tan Jiyuan. Beside Tan Jiyuan, the green-clothed visitor had a trace of mockery in his eyes. Brother Tan, how can they listen to you? Wait until I break the array. They will naturally listen to me obediently. After the green-clothed visitor finished speaking, he rushed to the Du clan's mountain protecting array, before Tan Jiyuan could say anything. Du Tianhe and the others immediately became nervous. They could only rely on the array now. If the array was broken, they would be dead. Everything would be over. They didn't expect that the Du clan's 10,000 years of family business would be destroyed today. Everyone in the Du clan stared at the green-clothed visitor's actions. The green-clothed visitor also raised his hand. He smiled coldly. A punch was thrown. Boom. This punch was only 30% of his strength. However, it was enough to make the mountain protecting array tremble violently. The second punch. 50% of his strength. Countless cracks immediately appeared on the protective mountain array, as if it was made of glass. Chapter 1397, When these cracks appeared, for Do Tianhe the real battle had begun. This was going to be an extremely tragic battle. My Do family disciples, listen up. Swear to protect the dignity of the Do family. Do Tianhe shouted. Du Ling, and all the other Du clan disciples roared as well. Although Bing Ke was not a member of the Do family, she was ready to fight to the death. At this moment, the sword in Bing Ke's hand was extremely shiny. The Do family disciples would rather die than surrender. They would not do something that would humiliate the dignity of the family. Although the Do family might not be able to survive today, the Do family's integrity must be preserved. This was the most important thing for a family, and they must not lose it. The visitor in green looked at the struggling and desperate expressions of the people below. Immediately, he sneered and smashed his last punch down with all his might. He did not need to use 50% of his strength. He only needed 20% of his strength to eliminate it easily. Boom! Before the punch landed, the sky was the first to be filled with the aura of thunder and wind. It was rolling in from afar. The violent movement attracted the attention of the visitor in green. Even Tan Zhuyuan and the others behind him raised their heads and looked at the sky. Two gigantic thunderbirds were flying towards this place at high speed. Even though they were hundreds of miles away, they could clearly feel the terrifying power. What's that? Tan Zhuyuan and the rest were also puzzled. Looking at the existence that was flying over, their hearts were filled with shock. The two creatures flying towards them had powerful auras. Wind Thunder Divine Hawk. A trace of shock also appeared in the eyes of the green-clothed visitor. At this moment, he had already sensed the aura of these Wind Lightning Divine Eagles. Hence, he was extremely clear about it. After all, he was the strongest amongst the many people present. There were two of them. Fortunately, there were only two of them. If there were more of them, he would not be able to deal with them. Fortunately, there were only two of them. Even the Wind Thunder Divine Hawk had to give way to the visitor in green. Just two Wind Thunder Divine Hawks. Get out of my way. I won't bicker with you today. The green-clothed visitor unleashed his might towards the two Wind Lightning Divine Eagles. Under normal circumstances, the two Wind Lightning Divine Eagles would definitely turn around and leave without any hesitation. But today's situation was different. Now it was not up to them to leave whenever they wanted. There was no such thing as a free lunch. Right now they were only scouting ahead. Godly Wind Thunder Hawk. The Godly Wind Thunder Hawk should be near the Thunderpool Mountain. Why would it appear here? Immediately, the people from the Du clan below also saw the Wind Thunder Godly Eagles. The first person to sense the Wind Thunder Godly Eagles was the Ice Sparrow. Both of them had cultivated the cultivation method of the Demon Clan. Hence, they were able to sense each other, as they were of the same kind. Naturally, they were quite sharp. There was still a certain distance between the Thunderpool Mountain and the Sky Suspension Mountain. Furthermore, these Wind Thunder Godly Eagles had their own territories. They seemed to be in a hurry to come here after traveling such a long distance. However, it was clear that the two Wind Thunder Godly Eagles had no intention of listening to the green-clothed visitor's threat in order to leave. It hovered above the Du family's residence. They were hesitating. What do you mean? Do you think I'm talking nonsense? Immediately, the green-clothed visitor was furious. Now was the time for him to be in high spirits. So the green-clothed visitor was also quite angry. He dared to beat anyone now. If these two Wind Thunder Godly Eagles were disobedient, and dared to deliberately provoke His Majesty in such a situation, then he would beat them up together. What could they do? However, the Wind Thunder Godly Eagles ignored the latter and continued to hover. Below, Du Linger frowned. She seemed to have a premonition that something was about to happen. At this moment, from the thick clouds, a flying boat was also directly penetrating out. Boom! The flying boat broke through. It seemed to be riding on the waves. Then this huge body gradually descended. Just the aura that descended had already reached a level that could intimidate the heavens. That's a flying boat? Someone can actually drive a flying boat in the untainted land. The material of this flying boat seems to be extremely special. What a strong sense of oppression. Look at the appearance and aura. It's definitely not something that an ordinary person can design. Even the people from the Tan family were shocked by the oppressive aura of the sky marshal boat. At the same time, they were full of admiration for the design of this sky marshal boat. The Tan family also had a flying boat, but it was far from the level of these people in front of them. Boom! The people from the Tan family had yet to calm down. Another 3 wind thunder godly eagles jumped down from the flying boat. Immediately, the aura of the 5 wind thunder godly eagles directly suppressed the green-clothed visitor and the people from the Tan family, making them breathless. They were really too strong. It was as if 5 mountains had descended from the sky and pressed down on their heads. What's going on? Do you want to die? Do you know the consequences of offending me? The green-clothed visitor looked at the 5 wind thunder godly eagles and frowned. His tone was slightly restrained, not daring to provoke these people too much. However, he was still very tough. He would never allow these wind thunder godly eagles to be presumptuous in front of him. Bit by bit his aura emerged. However, the Tianwu ship continued to descend. At this moment, 5 figures finally descended from the Tianwu ship. Ling, what's going on? Li Zhongjiu's voice came from above. When Do Ling heard Li Zhongjiu's voice, her eyes lit up. She couldn't even believe her ears. Did I hear wrongly? Do Ling shuddered. However, Li Zhongjiu, Qi Yanran, and the 3 elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace had all appeared. Do Ling saw them clearly. When Bing Ke saw the 3 elders and Li Zhongjiu, she started to cry. She was so excited that tears welled up in her eyes. Master! Elders! Bing Ke immediately shouted to the 3 elders. Do Ling was also very excited. She immediately rushed towards Li Zhongjiu. Do Tianhe, who was behind her, didn't know what was going on. Do Ling had already rushed out. If this was a trap, he would have fallen into it. However, Do Ling was too fast, so Do Tianhe instantly caught up with her. All of you stay here. Do Tianhe and the other experts of the Do family rushed out. The other disciples didn't know what was going on, but they had to obey Do Tianhe's order. Chapter 1398. Do Ling flew up to Li Zhongjiu and hugged Li Zhongjiu. Qi Yanran's face froze when she saw this. However, Do Ling was surprised when she saw Qi Yanran. Sister Yanran. Do Ling was stunned when she saw Qi Yanran. They knew each other when they were in Li Zhongjiu's mansion. She heard that they were together, but they didn't have the chance to meet again. After leaving Li Zhongjiu's mansion, Do Ling returned to the primitive clan and never returned. Do Ling was the top disciple of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Qi Yanran was the genius of 4 Seas Medicine Manor. Back then, Do Ling was very mysterious. The two weren't very familiar with each other. But when they met today, Qi Yanran felt an innocent and pure feeling coming from Do Ling. She was just like a little girl next door. But during this period of time, however, because of the Do clan, Do Ling had to use her blood to refine mad blood pills. Therefore, her body was very weak. Your body is very weak. Qi Yanran tapped on Do Ling's arm. Suddenly, a pure energy rushed into Do Ling's body and quickly healed her injuries, sweeping away all the exhaustion from before. Li Zhongjiu, these people want to destroy my family. Do Ling pointed at the Tan clan, especially the man in green. She had finally found a backer. Of course, these people had to pay the price. Do Ling didn't care what would happen to them. She only cared about her family. Senior, Evil Lord. Do Tianhe came to Li Zhongjiu's side. At the same time, he saw the elders of Sparrow Divine Palace. He was so excited that he didn't know what to say. No matter what, he was extremely excited. He's my father. Turin explained. Li Zhongjiu also greeted Do Tianhe. The Ice Sparrow was also quite excited to meet the elders again. She thought that she would never see them again. But when she saw that the 3 elders were all safe and sound, she was very surprised. But for Li Zhongjiu's words, Qi Yanran was by his side, so Bing Ke naturally didn't dare to act rashly. However, she also quietly glanced at Li Zhongjiu. Ice Sparrow, come and greet the palace master of Sparrow God Palace, the great elder hurriedly said. Ice Sparrow was also a disciple of Sparrow God Palace. Now that the palace lord had been born, she naturally had to pay her respects. He wasn't surprised that Qi Yanran had become the palace master of Sparrow Divine Palace. He hurriedly kowtowed to Qi Yanran. Ice Sparrow greets the palace master. Rise, there's no need to be so courteous, Qi Yanran said. The group of people chatted for a long time, ignoring the green-clothed visitor and the others. This made Tan Juyuan, the green-clothed visitor, and the others angry. Haha, is your family reunion over? If it's over, then prepare to die. The green-clothed visitor suddenly sneered. Li Zhongjiu and the others looked over and motioned the people around to stand behind them. In fact, with the power of the Tianwu ship, it could easily kill him. The other party's strength seemed to be powerful, but it was probably still not enough to withstand the Tianwu ship. You're just a 6th-grade sovereign. Who gave you the courage to come here and cause trouble? Li Zhongjiu glanced at the green-clothed visitor in front of him and directly exposed his cultivation. When the green-clothed visitor heard Li Zhongjiu's words, he couldn't help but sneer. He thought that Li Zhongjiu had great strength, but it turned out that it was only on the surface. Dou Tianhe also wanted to say something. After all, the green-clothed visitor's strength seemed to be only at the 6th-grade sovereign realm, but his strength had already surpassed the 6th-grade sovereign realm. At this moment, Li Zhongjiu added another sentence. Oh, so you're a little bug from Dragon Island. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant. The green-clothed visitor was immediately shocked by Li Zhong's words. How did he know? How did Li Zhongjiu know? He was actually able to see through it. The green-clothed visitor's eyes were filled with a trace of disbelief. Not only that, but the rest of the people were also surprised. Did they hear it wrongly? Dragon Island? Dragon Tribe? Dou Tianhe finally understood why the green-clothed visitor, who looked like a 6th-grade sovereign, could easily defeat a 7th-grade sovereign. Moreover, he only needed the strength of 3 punches to easily break the Dou family's protective clan array. It turned out that this person's identity was not ordinary. The Dragon Tribe's talent was extremely strong. Perhaps the green-clothed visitor's cultivation was indeed at the 6th-grade sovereign realm, but the talent of his tribe gave him an extremely strong physique. Even the existence of this power system was far beyond imagination. Therefore, the green-clothed visitor could exert such a strong effect in the battle. It turned out that they had been fighting with a Dragon Tribe expert all along. The green-clothed visitor really didn't expect this. This kid in front of him could actually see through his identity. Yes, the green-clothed visitor was indeed from Dragon Island. Now that Dragon Island's strength had increased greatly, they were no longer satisfied with just Dragon Island. They even hoped to rule the entire continent. They wanted to completely change the name of Shengwu Continent to Dragon Continent. In order to achieve this, they had to show their strength. The Tan family was one of the families chosen by the Dragon Island. Therefore, the Dragon Island decided to nurture the Tan family first. When the Tan family's strength increased and became one of the top families in the continent, the Dragon Island would be able to use them. There was no need for them to do everything personally, who knew that they would encounter so many problems when dealing with the Dou family. Although the process was smooth, the green-clothed visitor was very unhappy with the appearance of the person in front of him. I was wondering, so it's the Heavenly Sparrow clan. Kid, are you relying on the support of the Heavenly Sparrow clan? Do you have the guts to fight one-on-one with me? The green-clothed visitor sneered. Now that his identity had been revealed, it was time for a one-on-one battle. There were so many people looking at Li Zhongjiu. If Li Zhongjiu admitted defeat at this time, he would never be able to raise his head again. Originally, they wanted to force Li Zhongjiu to fight. However, when they heard that the green-clothed visitor in front of them wanted to fight with Li Zhongjiu, they immediately felt embarrassed. Qi Yanran's face suddenly became strange. Cough cough. Let's move aside and give them some space. Qi Yanran and her people retreated one after another. She really couldn't believe that there were still people who wanted to fight with Li Zhongjiu one-on-one in this era. Was life not good enough? Or was the air not fresh enough? How long has it been? Finally, someone mustered up the courage to fight with him. Li Zhongjiu also looked at the green-clothed visitor with a smirk on his face. Why don't you quickly summon all the elders of Dragon Island? I'm afraid that it will be too late. If I wait too long, I won't be able to experience it. Hearing Li Zhongjiu's words, the green-clothed visitor couldn't help but laugh out loud. Haha, you overestimate yourself. Today, I will show you the strength of my dragon clan. Chapter 1399. Previously, he had concealed his identity. This was because the green-clothed guest did not wish to reveal his noble identity in such a simple situation. Otherwise, it would appear that he was not of a high status. Therefore, he needed to reveal his identity at a critical moment or on a noble occasion. Only then would he be worthy of his identity as the little prince of the dragon tribe. But now, he was provoked by Li Zongjiu and the others. The green-clothed visitor did not hide his identity anymore. The other party might have some skills, but regardless, the visitor was prepared to kill Li Zongjiu in an instant. At the same time, he wanted to intimidate the Heavenly Sparrow tribe in front of him. A tribe that was struggling at death's door actually dared to appear in front of the dragon tribe. Previously, the three great demon clans could be said to be heaven-defying clans. They themselves possess great power. Moreover, the three clans were not afraid of each other. It could be said that they were evenly matched. Their strength was equally terrifying. But now, with the passage of time, the other two tribes had also declined. Now they finally saw the traces of the Heavenly Sparrow tribe. As for the Heavenly Demon tribe, not even a shadow of them could be seen. They might have been extinct. However, the most powerful tribe was the current Heavenly Dragon tribe. Back then, the Dragon tribe occupied the Dragon Island and began to reproduce. Now, the Dragon Island was floating in the sea, and no one was below its position. Now the strength of the Dragon tribe had gradually continued to reach its peak. The elders of the Dragon tribe believed that the current Dragon Island had enough strength to take over the mainland. What 3 dynasties? It would be a piece of cake for them. They could easily take them down. What they really needed to care about was the power in the untainted land. The green-clothed visitor slapped himself with his palm. Then he easily tore his clothes into pieces. Under his clothes, there were golden dragon scales on his body. Every piece of dragon scale seemed to contain a natural power. Even if it was just a single piece, it would still be an unparalleled piece of art. At this moment, the green-clothed visitor displayed his powerful dragon tribe body. Almost every inch of his power was exquisite and unparalleled. Are you done showing off? Li Zongjiu looked at the green-clothed visitor, who wanted to shatter his clothes before he could fight. Then, he would show off his powerful strength. He kept clenching his fists and roaring. Those who didn't know would think that it was a hereditary disease. Let me show you the power of the dragon race. The green-clothed visitor roared angrily. Then a terrifying force blasted toward Li Zongjiu's head. Under the fist, ripples appeared in the space. It was as if it was about to be unable to withstand the power of the other party. Li Zongjiu, be careful. Douling couldn't help but ask. He was worried that Li Zongjiu would be killed by a single punch, because he underestimated his opponent. If that happened, it would be too much of a loss. He was clearly able to defeat his opponent. Facing the opponent's fist that was charging towards him, Li Zongjiu simply extended a finger. He managed to block the opponent's fist that was filled with power. It was extremely easy. The other party's fist seemed to be powerful. But in front of Li Zongjiu, it was completely like a decoration. It had no effect at all. Even the green-clothed visitor himself couldn't figure out what was going on. Where did all his strength go? Li Zongjiu should have died under his fist. Is that all you've got? Li Zongjiu couldn't help but frown. It had been a long time since he fought with the dragon race. The last time he fought with the dragon race was when he killed the 4 supreme beings of the dragon race. In the blink of an eye, he didn't know how much time had passed. He thought that his opponent would be very strong. He didn't expect that his opponent would be much weaker than he imagined. Why don't you try it again? Li Zongjiu took a step back and signaled his opponent to continue attacking so that he could feel his strength. Ever since the green-clothed visitor left Dragon Island, this was the first time he felt that his strength was ignored by someone. At the same time, he was directly provoked to continue attacking. You're courting death. At this moment, the green-clothed visitor didn't care whether Li Zongjiu was using evil techniques, or if he was just bluffing. In fact, he couldn't take it anymore, and had reached his limit. Immediately, the skin on the green-clothed visitor's head was directly torn apart. Rip. Then, the green-clothed visitor's head turned from a middle-aged man to a dragon's head. However, it was obvious that the evolution wasn't complete. The body didn't display its full power, so it looked more like a giant lizard's head. Even the dual-headed black demonic dragon of the fallen clan couldn't be compared to this. Looking at the weak guy in front of him who was like a bug, before the opponent could make his move, Li Zongjio directly smashed the green-clothed visitor's head with a punch. Bang! The green-clothed visitor's head that had just turned into a dragon's head exploded under Li Zongjio's iron fist. Blood splattered everywhere. The people of the Tan family were still waiting for the green-clothed visitor to show his strength. After all, he was a dragon from Dragon Island. His strength must be incomparably strong. However, he was easily defeated at this moment. He was killed in an instant. At the same time, looking at Li Zongjio's appearance, it seemed like he hadn't even started to get serious before he killed the green-clothed visitor in an instant. "I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. Your appearance is really too ugly." Li Zongjio shook the blood off his hands. Initially, he wanted to have some fun with the green-clothed visitor. However, the latter's ugly appearance had indeed frightened Li Zongjio. Hence, he directly smashed the green-clothed visitor's head. He didn't even have the chance to let the latter send out a signal. If he didn't send out a signal, how would the people of Dragon Island know that he had died here and come to avenge him? Hence, he would have to wait for a long time. Li Zongjio's gaze turned towards Tan Juyuan and the others. Tan Juyuan and the others immediately froze. It was as if they could foresee what was going to happen next. Initially, Tan Juyuan and the others relied on their cooperation with the dragon tribe. Initially, the green-clothed visitor was sent by the dragon tribe to help them. However, someone had appeared and smashed the head of the foreign aide with a single punch. Moreover, by the looks of it, he seemed to be a friend of the Du family. This time they were done for. "Hey friend, let's talk things over. How much money did the Du family give you?" "My Tan family is willing to give you 3 times, no 5 times. Tan Juyuan wanted to struggle in the final moment. However, Li Zongjio didn't seem to have any intention of dealing with Tan Juyuan. "Don't be nervous. I will give you a chance. Bring the body of this kid back and send a message to Dragon Island. Within 3 days, come to the Du family of Sky Suspension Mountain and apologize. Kowtow and kneel down. Otherwise I, evil Lord Li Zongjio, will annihilate Dragon Island." Li Zongjio said. These words always had a mysterious feeling when he heard them. To make the dragon tribe kneel down? Wasn't that a little too difficult? However, Tan Juyuan knew that he would at least be able to return alive today. After he returned alive, he would definitely inform the dragon tribe of Dragon Island. No matter how powerful this Li Zongjio was, there would be someone to deal with him. Chapter 1400. Li Zongjio's words also made Tan Juyuan feel a little confused. Even when he was leaving, he was still in a daze. He was still worried that Li Zongjio would appear at the last moment and kill them. He purposely asked them to leave to lower their vigilance. However, Tan Juyuan and the rest left successfully. It was so smooth that Tan Juyuan could not believe that they had left so easily. Could it be that Li Zongjio did not intend to kill them? After the Tan family left, Do Tianhe heaved a sigh of relief. He was already thankful that they could resolve the crisis today. Moreover, Li Zongjio had already killed the most powerful guest in green. Do Tianhe was already very grateful. He could not possibly ask Li Zongjio to wipe out the Tan family. Of course, it would be better for him to do it himself. As long as they could survive today, there would definitely be a chance for revenge in the future. "Thank you so much. Thank you so much." Do Tianhe quickly thanked Li Zongjio. At this moment, Do Tianhe had already recognized the other party's lineup. The legendary evil dominator actually had such a great background. He had a total of 5 Wind Thunder Divine Eagles under his command. Even his wife was the palace master of the Sparrow God Palace. Who do you think would be able to take such a huge gamble? He was too strong. With Li Zongjio's strength, it would be easy for him to wipe out the Tan family. Similarly, it would be even easier for him to wipe out the Dou family. You're welcome. Ling and I are friends. When the time is right, we'll kill these ignorant fools. We'll stay here first. When the people from Dragon Island arrive, we'll get rid of them. Li Zongjie said. Get rid of Dragon Island? That would mean facing the entire dragon tribe. The Dou clan was a clan that had existed for tens of thousands of years in the untainted land. Naturally, they knew about the existence of the dragon tribe and how powerful they were. Although Li Zongjie had gathered a lot of forces around him, it was almost impossible to deal with the entire dragon clan. However, Dou Tianhe couldn't say that he was overestimating himself. After all, he had just saved the lives of his entire clan. Of course, you're most welcome. Please, Dou Tianhe said gratefully. If Li Zongjie and the others stayed here, it would be much safer. After all, with so many experts here, even if the people of the dragon clan came, they would have to think twice. Li Zongjie, my grandfather is injured. I can't treat him with my ability. Can you help me save my grandfather? Dou Linger looked at Li Zongjie and said pitifully, Why are you acting pitiful? Let's go. Li Zongjie patted Dou Linger's head. Don't underestimate this delicate and pitiful girl. Back in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor, this girl looked soft and weak, but when she fought, she was quite fierce and violent. No one dared to believe that this little girl was actually so ferocious. Qi Yanran and the others were resting under the arrangement of the Dou clan. Bing Ke and the three elders went to catch up with each other. The 5 Wind Thunder Divine Eagles were sent to patrol the surroundings. At least, flying like this would let the surrounding meta beasts know that there were top meta beasts in the Dou clan. Even though they were hovering in the air, they were still quite impressive. As for the corpse of the green-robed visitor, it fell to the ground and rotted. No one cared about it at all. Who would have thought that the dignified dragon clan would end up with their corpses exposed in the wilderness? Anyone who heard this would be heartbroken and shed tears. For the noble dragon clan, such a way of dying was simply the greatest insult. If the experts of the dragon clan came and saw this scene, they would definitely fly into a rage. Li Zongjie naturally didn't care about the origin of the dispute between the two clans. These things weren't important to Li Zongjie. There were thousands of reasons. However, after Li Zongjie's arrival, there was only one outcome to everything. Dou Linger and Dou Tianhe brought Qi Yanran and Li Zongjie to the secret chamber of the Dou clan. Inside this secret chamber were all the experts of the Dou clan, who had been seriously injured and were recuperating quickly. Dou Su was sitting in the main seat. He was the head of the Dou clan. Dou Su's cultivation was naturally the highest. However, he was also the one who had been beaten up the most by the green-robed visitor. After all, Dou Su's strength wasn't as good as the latter's. Now that he was able to keep his life, it was already very good. Tianhe, what's the situation outside? Dou Su opened his eyes and saw Dou Tianhe. At the same time, he also saw Li Zongjie and Qi Yanran. At first, Dou Su couldn't believe his eyes. Was that Li Zongjie? If Li Zongjie was here, didn't that mean that the elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace were here as well? But, is that Senior Evil Lord? Dou Su wanted to get up immediately, but he was stopped by the elders of the Dou clan beside him. How did this happen? Li Zongjie glanced around. Almost all the top experts of the Dou clan were recuperating here. Furthermore, these people's recuperation methods were very strange. They used everyone's strength to concentrate on one person. If the first person could be cured, they would be able to transfer their strength back to the others. This strange method was very similar to a kind of metabeast. When a metabeast was injured, it would hug each other for warmth and recuperation. This way, he would be able to recover very quickly. If he was alone, he would die very quickly. You do it. Your strength is more suitable. Qi Yanran nodded. Then she flicked her finger. A ray of 5-colored divine light shot into Dou Su's body. It happened so fast that no one could react in time. Soon, Dou Su's eyes were filled with astonishment. This was because the irreversible injuries in his body were rapidly recovering at this moment. Moreover, the speed of recovery was simply inconceivable to him. How is this possible? My injuries. Dou Su was shocked, but he didn't just stand there stupidly. Moreover, the power that Qi Yinran injected was very strong. It was more than enough to heal him. Therefore, Dosu quickly transferred the power back. The rest of the experts of the Du clan were also healed by this power. Their injuries were recovering rapidly. This, Do Tianhe, who was standing at the side, saw this happen with his own eyes. How did Qi Yinran do it? This was simply too terrifying. With just one move, she healed everyone. Amazing. Chapter 1401. Du Su and the others could clearly feel that their injuries were healing. They were full of admiration for Qi Yinran's powerful means. Wow, thank you, Sister Yinran. Du Ling immediately expressed her gratitude to Qi Yinran. Because her grandfather and the others were seriously injured, they had to use this ancient method to heal their injuries. Moreover, it would take a very long time for him to recover from his injuries. If they couldn't get through it, they would die directly. Now that Qi Yinran had appeared and saved dozens of lives, she was also the most powerful person in the Du family. Although Li Zongjio and the others were here now, it didn't matter how powerful they were. But Li Zongjio and the others couldn't always protect the Du family here. Therefore, it was a good thing for the Du family to be able to recover their fighting strength. Alright, you have just recovered. You should rest more. Li Zongjio couldn't help but say when he saw these people crying bitterly, as if there was a happy ending after suffering. In Li Zongjio's eyes, it was just a small matter. This sort of treatment wasn't much of a problem. As long as this person was still breathing, it wasn't much of a problem for the evil lord. That's right. Father, you should rest more. I'll entertain the evil lord. By the way, the arrogant green-clothed visitor was killed by the evil lord just now. Du Tianhe said to Du Su. After dropping such a heavy piece of news, they directly left the secret room. This allowed Du Su and the others to properly digest this piece of shocking news. Because of Li Zongjio's arrival, the Du family's situation had changed dramatically. He had really turned the situation around. Originally, Du Tianhe wanted to hold a banquet to thank Li Zongjio. For an expert like Li Zongjio, even the whole Du family might not be able to take out anything to thank him. Li Zongjio refused. Li Zongjio wasn't very familiar with the Du clan. He was only familiar with Do Ling. He didn't like having such a large group of people eating together. Eating was more interesting when it was with his own people. However, the food was still prepared by the Du family. That night, Du Su and the others had already walked out of the secret chamber. They also gathered together to discuss the situation that the Du family was about to face. I didn't expect the Dragon clan to be behind this. Dosu was clearly a little angry. No wonder he felt strange when he fought with the green-clothed visitor. However, the Dragon clan was very powerful. If they wanted to cause trouble, they could cause trouble. The Do clan didn't have the ability to stop them. But family head, we have truly offended the Dragon tribe. According to Tianhe, the Dragon tribe will not let us off now that the Dragon tribe members have died in our Du family's territory. An elder said worriedly, after all, this wasn't a small matter. You idiot. If it wasn't for Senior Evil Lord, you wouldn't have the right to speak. So what if it's the Dragon tribe? Do you think our Du family is afraid of them? Since he wants to destroy my Do clan, then my Do clan will definitely drag one of his Dragon clan to death, even if we have to use our last breath. Another elder directly retorted, what kind of time and era was this? There were still people who wanted to put their own safety first. Save their own skin. How could they save their own skin? The Dragon tribe could throw you to your death with a swing of its tail. The elder who was reprimanded didn't feel unbearable. The existence of the Council of Elders was to put forward different opinions. If everyone's opinion was the same, it wouldn't necessarily mean that their opinion was correct. Moreover, there had to be different opinions to maintain the diversity of the meeting. In the end, Du Su still needed to make the final decision. He stood firmly on Evil Lord's side. Before this, he had already sent many people from the Du family to the mainland. This kind of precautionary measure was necessary, and had been prepared for a long time. Those who could stay in the Sky Suspension Mountain of the Du family, they were all able to fight their enemies at any time. These people were fighting to protect the Du family's reputation and dignity. Another group of people had already been arranged to continue the bloodline of the Du family. If a powerful existence appeared in the future, they would be able to avenge the Du family. An existence like the Du clan was like a big tree with deep roots. After many years of planning, it was unknown how many people were scattered in every corner of the continent. There was no end to killing. At the Sky Suspension Mountain, the people of the Du family were quietly waiting for the dragon tribe to come. They also wanted to see if evil Lord Li Zongjie really had the strength to stop the dragon tribe's attack. The Tan family. Previously, when the green-robed guest came, he gave the Tan family a piece of dragon scale in case they needed it. When they needed the dragon tribe, they would polish a piece of dragon scale. At least as a vassal family, the Tan family was considered wise. After unifying the mainland, there would be many things for the Tan family to do. When Tan Jiyuan polished the piece of dragon scale, a shadow was also projected from the dragon scale. It looked like the green-robed guest. It was a man in a long green robe. However, he looked a little old. People of the Tan family, why have you called for me? The green shadow lifted his head slowly and looked at the people of the Tan family. Immediately, Tan Jiyuan led the upper echelons of the Tan family behind him and knelt down to the green shadow. The Tan family greets the elder of the dragon tribe. Elder, something bad has happened. Qingyi was killed by someone called Evil Lord. After Tan Jiyuan finished his sentence, he immediately felt an immense pressure descending on him. At this moment, the real body of the green shadow was tens of thousands of miles away from the Tan family. However, he was able to transmit his aura through the projection. This showed how strong the other party was. What did you say? The other party said coldly. Tan Jiyuan also hurriedly reported the situation where Li Zongjie and the others had appeared that day. At the same time, he also repeated Li Zongjie's vicious words to the elder of the dragon tribe without missing a single word. Great. Very well, a mere ant dares to challenge a god. The other party laughed coldly. I will move out immediately. Tell the people of the Tan family to get ready. After 10 hours, I will twist that kid's head off. 10 hours. The Dragon Island was tens of thousands of miles away from the Chaos Land. However, the other party could reach within 10 hours. The shadow disappeared. Tan Jiyuan and the others stood up one after another. The elder of the dragon tribe is furious. None of these people can run away. This time, let's see how long the Du family can laugh. Chapter 1402. This was because Li Zongjie and the others would be waiting for the dragon tribe to arrive. However, since these humans and dragons had shamelessly returned to the continent, it was hard to say what they had done in the 3 dynasties of the continent. Therefore, the 3 elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace were sent. They were sent to Wuxia City and Monarch City respectively. Although Li Zongjie had left some powerful ones behind, they were still insignificant compared to the strength of the dragon tribe. The strongest one in the entire Wuxia City was the first-grade sovereign Sky Blaze Lion. Why don't I return to the dynasty first to check on the situation, so that you won't be worried? Qi Yanran said. Qi Yanran's strength was comparable to Li Zongjie's. Even in the face of the powerful dragon tribe, she could fight head-on. Qi Yanran knew that Li Zongjie was worried. Even if the elders went, they wouldn't be at ease. Therefore, she took the initiative to say it. Then I'll have to trouble you to make this trip. Take the Sky Marshal boat with you. Since Qi Yanran was willing to go, Li Zongjie was naturally more relieved. No need. I'll use the platform. Qi Yanran didn't say anything else. She summoned the green bird platform, and it turned into a pair of wings behind her back. Qi Yanran's figure soared into the sky in the blink of an eye. Boom! Qi Yanran's figure disappeared. You guys go with her. It's okay to be late. It's boring to stay here. Li Zongjie couldn't help but ask as he looked at the elders of Sparrow God Palace. At this moment, the elders of the Sparrow Divine Palace were immersed in the powerful strength that their palace master had displayed. She was able to use the power of the green bird platform. She was so powerful. She was like a sharp sword that could pierce the heavens. She's worthy of being the palace master of the Sparrow Divine Palace. She has the prestige of our ancestors. The three elders were extremely touched. Finally, this day had come. Even if they were to face the dragon clan of the Dragon Island, they would no longer be afraid. Although the Divine Phoenix Palace had been destroyed, it had been exchanged for a clan leader with a bright future who could bring eternal glory to the Sky Sparrow race. Wouldn't that be great? The three elders and Ice Sparrow rode the Wind Thunder Godly Eagle and flew out of the Untainted Land. They had not left the Untainted Land for many years because they had yet to complete their mission. Now they finally had the chance to make a trip to the Untainted Land. In addition, there was also a Wind Thunder Condor. He left it for Li Zhongjie as a means of transportation. Normally, it was fine to send them out to patrol. Evidently, this Wind Thunder deity hawk was also the strongest existence among the five. It was also the one that was able to clearly sense the threat and oppression coming from Li Zhongjie. In front of Li Zhongjie, his life was like a 1,000-pound boulder hanging on a thin rope. His life was hanging by a thread. If Li Zhongjie was unhappy, he could kill him with a sneeze. He would definitely end up in a miserable state. This Wind Thunder deity hawk was obviously suffering from paranoia. It was always thinking that Li Zhongjie might find some excuse to kill it. In fact, Li Zhongjie did not care about what this bird was thinking. Do Ling also went back to recuperate. The previous battle could be said to have overdrawn Do Ling's strength. This made Do Tianhe's heart ache. Now that the elders of the Do family had recovered their strength, they were also repairing the Do family's defensive array. Although this thing was not worth mentioning in front of the dragon race, it was still better than nothing. If it weren't for the Great Mountain Protection Formation that lasted for 2 seconds, by the time Li Zhongjie and the others arrived, they would have been dead already. Perhaps the Do family would have already been reduced to ruins. Therefore, this was something that could not be determined. Li Zhongjie heard that there was a wintry lake in the mountains behind the Do family. The wintry lake was cold all year round, but it was only in this small area. The strange thing was that the water did not freeze. Therefore, he suspected that there might be some meta beasts causing trouble under the wintry lake. However, entering the wintry lake was a very dangerous thing. Moreover, even if they discovered some secrets, there might not be any benefits. The wintry lake itself was here, and there were no strange occurrences. Therefore, as time passed, no one paid attention to it. Li Zhongjie used his mental power to investigate, and discovered that there was a school of 1,000 cold ruler fish under the lake. This kind of fish should only be found in the deep sea. Why would they appear in the wintry lake? Of course, this kind of fish did not have any offensive abilities. It was just that their attributes were filled with coldness. Li Zhongjie was instantly interested to be able to encounter this kind of deep-sea fish in such a place. Li Zhongjie had a very precious fishing rod in his hands. It was given to him by Chu Yingguan when he was in the sacred martial realm. In order to curry favor with this evil lord, Chu Yingguan had put in a lot of effort. Therefore, Li Zhongjie was quite satisfied with Chu Yingguan's actions. That day, Li Zhongjie started fishing in the wintry lake. Fishing. When Du Su heard this news, he was also stunned. How can a person stay in the wintry lake at such a temperature? Furthermore, there are fish in the wintry lake? The people of the Do family could not understand Li Zhongjie's actions. An expert was an expert, and the things he did were unpredictable. In the wilderness, wind and clouds gathered. 5 figures suddenly appeared in the sky above the Tan family's residence, causing a huge black cloud vortex to appear in the sky above the Tan family's residence. Within the vortex, there were lightning bolts shooting out continuously. It was earth-shattering. It was as if the heavens and the earth were splitting apart. The people of the Tan family trembled under the might of the lightning bolts. All the meta beasts within a radius of 10,000 miles were prostrating themselves on the ground, not daring to move. What king? What overlord? At this moment, all of them had become grandsons. Although the other party's aura was 10,000 miles away, just a trace of power released was enough to make the meta beasts feel fear and submission from the depths of their souls. Where is my son's corpse? The skin of the people who came was green, and there were 2 dragon horns on their foreheads. The one who spoke was a burly man with a green face, including the green-clothed visitor. The 5 people in front of them were also present. In fact, They only belong to a small lineage on the Dragon Island. The lineage of the Greenstone Dragon. They were not on the same level as the Greenstone Dragon, one of the 4 legendary divine beasts. The Greenstone Dragon was a true divine dragon. The Greenstone Dragon in front of them only possessed a powerful bloodline, but it still belonged to the category of meta beasts. The 5 people who came were all the relatives of the green-clothed visitor. 2 parents, 2 brothers, and an uncle. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.